Chapter 31:24. This disciple does not understand. Since Master has become immortal, how could you have died? Divine Lord 10 Directions is correct. Master comprehended the true essence of immortality with the help of the time mirage and reached the immortal realm. However, Master's physical body and cultivation were not enough. I could not truly step into the immortal realm in such a hurry. Shi Xian Daozu sighed. Then his words suddenly changed. The figure formed from his thoughts smiled. In truth, Master did not do this just to seal Divine Lord 10 Directions. It was for Master's own sake. Could it be that Master didn't really die? Su Fang looked in shock at Shi Xian Daozu. In the next moment, his eyes became sharp. Yes, Master finally managed to take that step. How could I sacrifice myself just to shackle Divine Lord 10 Directions for millions of years? Shi Xian Daozu showed a scheming expression. At this moment, he looked like an old fox that had cultivated for countless years. Master might have stepped into the immortal realm, but I found that due to my life, soul and other reasons, I could not truly step into the immortal realm. If I forcefully tried to reach the immortal realm, I would be like the foreign Daozu in the time mirage, dying in the end. Thus, Master had to think of another way. After thinking for a long time, I finally found a way. That is to reincarnate and recultivate the great Tao. Master might have died this time, but it was not truly the death of my Tao. I will enter reincarnation. Master wants to turn myself into formless, and then through 9 reincarnations, use the accumulation of 9 lives to reach the peak of Daozu. In the end, I will grasp the true essence of the great Tao and become an immortal existence. Shi Xian Daozu's words caused Su Fang to sink into great shock. He had never expected Shi Xian Daozu to have such a plan. Now, the grief and worry in Su Fang's heart disappeared. It had to be said that Shi Xian Daozu was a cunning old fox. He managed to deceive everyone. Su Fang said in surprise, "Shizuan, your first reincarnation will be there. I'll go find you." Shi Xian Daozu smiled domineeringly. Master's fate cannot be interfered with by you. Otherwise, it will bring changes to Master's reincarnation cultivation, and even cause Master's efforts to be wasted. Don't worry, what kind of person am I? Even if I reincarnate and start cultivating from the beginning, I won't be in any danger. Su Fang could only give up. Shi Xian Daozu continued, Master has experienced 9 reincarnations. Even Master cannot predict what will happen. 10 million years is too short, and your Master might not succeed by then. Thus, in the end, I will still have to rely on you to deal with the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. Su Fang rubbed the tip of his nose and smiled bitterly. Master, do you think I can become an immortal and defeat the 10 Directions Divine Lord? Others might not be able to, but you are different. Master has always felt that you and the 10 Directions Divine Lord are connected by karma that cannot be severed. If there is truly someone who can deal with the 10 Directions Divine Lord, it can only be you. Shi Xian Daozu's words caused Su Fang's heart to tremble, and he fell into deep thought. Although Su Fang was born in a low-level universe, he did have an imperceptible karma with the 10 Directions Divine Lord. In the Pan Tsong universe, Su Fang cultivated the 9 Suns' 9 transformations, which originated from the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra that the 10 Directions Divine Lord had deliberately spread throughout the human world. In the Jiuxuan God domain, Su Fang cultivated the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra and also obtained the My Master's 10 Directions seal. He also had a great connection with the 10 Directions Divine Lord. If this was not karma and fate, then what was? If not for Shi Xian Daozu's reminder, Su Fang himself would not have realized it. Shi Xian Daozu continued, with your current strength, you can already venture into the outer realm primal chaos. Once you enter the ruins of God, you might be able to find a way to deal with the 10 Directions Divine Lord. Then, all your secrets will be easily solved. Su Fang nodded. That 10 Directions Divine Lord is truly strange. Once I completely decipher the memories of the 10 Directions Divine Lord in the My Master's 10 Directions seal, I might be able to figure out some details about him. Then, I will go to the ruins of God and deal with the 10 Directions Divine Lord from the root. Su Fong, after telling you so much, Master should be at ease and reincarnate. If I leave this thought with you, it will interfere with my fate. In this life, our fate as master and disciple has come to an end. I hope that we will meet again in the next life. Shi Xian Daozu gazed at Su Fong, his eyes filled with gratification and a trace of unwillingness. Then, his figure started to blur and the light wheels around him started to collapse. Master, in your next life, I still want to be your disciple. Su Fong knelt down to bid farewell to Shi Xian Daozu, sobbing uncontrollably. Soon, Shi Xian Daozu's figure disappeared without a trace. His aura and fate also disappeared without a trace. The peak expert of the human race, the paragon of the Western profound divine realm, the first undying existence of the human race, had disappeared from the world. Su Fong's heart was filled with great sorrow and sorrow. Although Shi Xian Daozu had not truly died, the Shi Xian Daozu after reincarnating was no longer Shi Xian Daozu. How could Su Fong give up? In the next 100 years, Su Fong sat quietly in his cave. He did not cultivate and abandoned everything. He wanted to figure out what path he should take in the future. During this time, Dongxian Daozu ordered people to send more than 5 million cultivators of the Western Profound Mountain to Migres planet and settle them down there. When the Western Profound Mountain was destroyed, these Western Profound Mountain cultivators were lucky enough to escape. Now that they had a place to stay, they were all very happy. They also knew that it was all because of Su Fong that they could be where they were today. Everyone was in awe of Su Fong, and in their hearts, Su Fong was the paragon. Everything had to start from the beginning. Su Fong asked the Wine Saint and the last remaining Tao Saint of the Western Profound Mountain to start making all kinds of laws. After a few hundred years, the Western Profound Mountain cultivators finally settled down. Everything was on the right track. Su Fong also took out all kinds of resources that the sovereign had given him and gave them to the Wine Saint to distribute to the cultivators. Su Fong planned to settle down the Western Profound Mountain cultivators and wait for his heavenly path Dharma body to return and break through to the Tao Saint realm. At that time, he would go to the Ice Soul Sacred Region to see Xuanxin, and then go to the ruins of God. There was also Goddess Luo. She had been taken away by the precious Tree Mother, and her current situation was unknown. If he did not see her, Su Fong would not be at ease no matter what. As for Xu Wanjin, Yu Luo, and the others in the Yuxian Divine Region, Su Fong was not worried. With the Dark Mother Daozu there, nothing would happen to them. However, what Su Fong did not expect was that as soon as the Western Profound Mountain cultivators settled down, all kinds of troubles followed one after another. They mainly came from the Migres planet cultivators. Half of the Migres planet had been forcibly occupied by the Western Profound Mountain cultivators, and the cultivation area of the Migres planet cultivators had also shrunk by half. How could they be willing? They were also on the same Migres planet, so they would occasionally meet. In the beginning, they were still able to coexist peacefully, but later on, all kinds of conflicts began to occur. Of course, it was the Migres planet cultivators who took the initiative to provoke them, inciting all kinds of trouble. Su Fong had just arrived at Heaven Pavilion, so he did not want to leave behind an arrogant and domineering impression. That would bring even more trouble to the Western Profound Mountain cultivators, so he could only make the Western Profound Mountain cultivators endure silently. When the Migres planet cultivators' anger subsided, everything would be fine. At the same time, Su Fong was also puzzled. Why would the Dongxian Daozu settle him and the Western Profound Mountain cultivators on the Migres planet? Wasn't this clearly creating conflict? Who knew the conflict became more and more intense, and there were even casualties among the Western Profound Mountain cultivators. On this day, Su Fang was cultivating in his cave when a western profound mountain cultivator came to pay his respects. "Martial uncle, this one has a matter to discuss with you." Su Fang's thought transformed into a doppelganger, appearing outside the cave. The person who came was a young man at the peak of the upper Tao Void realm. He was the Wine Saint's most capable disciple, and his name was Bai Shu. He had the most hope of becoming a Tao Saint, and was previously the Vice Peak Master of the Wine Saint Peak. Seeing the anxious expression on Bai Shu's face, Su Fang raised his eyebrows. "What happened?" Bai Shu knelt before Su Fang and said in a trembling voice, "Martial uncle, please save senior martial brother Ling Xiaozi." Su Fang hurriedly asked, "What happened to Ling Xiaozi?" Senior martial brother Ling Xiaozi went to the Dubhe planet to handle some matters, and he was framed. They said that he stole the treasure of a Migres planet cultivator, and he was caught with the stolen goods. Now, he was captured by the Punishment Hall and imprisoned in the Heavenly Jade Planet's prison. When Master heard about this, he went to ask for him, but he was ridiculed by the Heavenly Jade Planet cultivators who were in charge of punishment. Master was so angry that he vomited blood when he returned. The cultivators of the Migres planet are becoming more and more unrestrained. Su Fang smiled indifferently. He condensed a jade slip and handed it to Bai Shu. "Take this jade slip to the Dubhe planet and find Lord Tuoqianji. Ask him to come forward and ask the Heavenly Jade Planet to release him." "Many thanks, martial uncle." Then, he took out a Xian Guang, which sealed the remaining foreign race Daozu's blood, and asked Bai Shu to bring it to the Wine Saint. In the Battle of the Western Mystery Mountain, the Wine Saint was seriously injured again. Su Fang could not help him, and could only take out the last of the Daozu's blood. Not long after Bai Shu left. Suddenly, someone came to seek an audience, but it was not a cultivator of the Western Mystery Mountain. It was a Migres planet cultivator. This person was also a cultivator at the peak of the upper Tao Void realm. He was only around 30 years old, and his aura was extremely powerful. His entire being had merged with the Migres planet. However, Su Fang did not recognize him. The figure formed by his thoughts asked indifferently, "What's the matter?" That cultivator had a smile on his face, and he appeared to be very polite. "I am the head disciple of the Migres planet master, and also the elder of the Migres planet. The Immortal's Cave that Vice Planet Master Su Fang is currently living in is my previous Immortal's Cave." Su Fang frowned. "What's the matter? Just say it." "Then I will be impudent." The Migres Planet Master's head disciple smiled embarrassedly. Then, he showed an ashamed expression. "When I moved away, because I left in a hurry, I left behind some treasures in the Immortal's Cave. I came this time to search for them." Su Fang's gaze became fierce. "You want to search my Immortal's Cave?" The Migres planet's head disciple hurriedly bowed and apologized. "How would I dare? Those treasures are very important to me. I must find them. Also, there is a medicine garden inside the Immortal's Cave. I also want to move it away. Please forgive me, Vice Planet Master." Although this person spoke politely, he was actually arrogant and incomparably impudent. Su Fang was the Daozu's disciple, and he was the Migres planet's Vice Planet Master personally conferred by Daozu. At this time, his Immortal's Cave was unexpectedly searched by an elder. It could be seen how arrogant this person was. It seems that blindly enduring made the Migres Planet Master think that I am afraid of him. This time, he deliberately sent a disciple to provoke me. Chapter 31:25. The Lord of the Migres Star is doing this because he wants to deliberately stir up trouble and find an excuse for himself to attack. Then he will defeat me, make me lose face, and finally drive me out of the Migres Star. Su Fang understood the Lord of the Migres Star's intentions like a mirror. How can I, Su Fang, be a soft persimmon that others can bully without knowing how to fight back? Now that Ling Xiaozi has been captured and an elder has come to bully me, why should I tolerate it? Since I want to fight back, then I'll give the Lord of the Migres star a fierce lesson. This time, I might as well be flamboyant and wild, intimidating the other experts of the Heaven Pavilion, so that the cultivators of the Western mystery won't be bullied in the Heaven Pavilion in the future. Su Fang made a decision in his heart. He nodded and smiled at the Migres star's eldest disciple. Since the treasure you left behind is so important, how can I be unreasonable? Go ahead and search for it in my abode. As for your herb garden, you can move it away as well. If you want to destroy him, you have to make him crazy first. First, I'll let the Migres star's eldest disciple be arrogant for a while. The more arrogant he is, the more excuses Su Fang will have. When the time comes, he won't have the reputation of being arrogant and despotic. Suddenly the figure that Su Fang's thoughts transformed into suddenly shone with divine light, and he immediately revealed a joyful expression. The next moment, Su Fang's real body flew out of the abode, put away this thought, and flew out of the Migres star. The Migres star's eldest disciple was shocked and stunned. He immediately let out a cold laugh, full of disdain. I thought Su Fang was some kind of person, but I didn't expect him to be a coward. After being bullied by me to this extent, he can still endure it. Not only does he not dare to fight back, but he is also so scared that he runs away. I really don't know why Lord Daozu values him so much. What right does such a cowardly person have to occupy half of the Migres star? Soon after, he no longer had any fear. He used his magical powers to attack the barrier outside Su Fang's abode. After Su Fang moved into this abode, he rearranged the barrier, but he did it casually. After all, this was the Migres star, and he didn't plan to stay here for long. The eldest disciple of the Migres star lord easily broke through the barrier and entered the inner space of the cave. He began to search without restraint. Of course, the so-called search was intentional destruction. The eldest disciple of the Migres star lord planned to use this to anger Su Fang and force Su Fang to take action, giving the Migres star lord an excuse to take action against him. At the main gate of Heaven Pavilion, Su Fang's figure flashed out from a side door. Some of the Heaven Pavilion disciples and elders near the gate came to greet Su Fang when they saw him. Su Fang waved his hand and went to the void in front of Heaven Pavilion. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back, as if waiting for someone. About 6 hours later, a figure broke through the air. It was none other than Su Fang's heavenly law avatar. When the Western Mystery Mountain broke out of the encirclement, in order to save the cultivators of the Western Mystery Mountain, Su Fang risked his life and used the longevity lamp as bait to save the cultivators of the Western Mystery Mountain. Su Fang thought that he would definitely die this time, so he had his subordinate, Tu Xiu, leave with the Heavenly Law Avatar. In the Heavenly Law Avatar's internal world, there were not only 20,000 seedlings of the Western Mystery Mountain, but also Su Fang's father and other relatives and friends. After Su Fang came to the Eastern Mystery Divine Domain, he had been worried about the safety of the Heavenly Law Avatar. Now that the Heavenly Law Avatar had finally returned, Su Fang's hanging heart finally settled down, and he was very happy. He kept the Heavenly Law Avatar in the Tao Palace. Buzz 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 unexpectedly. The Heavenly Law Avatar hid an extremely secretive aura that caused the Heavenly Secret Life Shrinking Technique to flash in the Tao Palace, and the Heavenly Fate Avatar instantly sensed it. After a careful investigation, the result surprised and shocked Su Fang. Someone had secretly left an aura in the Heavenly Law Avatar. If not for the Heavenly Fate Avatar and the Heavenly Secret Life Shrinking Technique, Su Fang would not have noticed it. So it was that half-step Daozu from the Mayfly race that left an imprint on the Heavenly Law Avatar. What a close shave! From that hidden aura, Su Fang determined that it came from the 6 paths of heaven, Yu Shui, who had half of her soul devoured by the longevity lamp. Su Fang guessed that Yu Shui must have discovered the Heavenly Law Avatar and tampered with it without the Heavenly Law Avatar noticing. Yu Shui wanted to obtain Su Fang's longevity lamp, so she let the heavenly law avatar go and left an imprint inside it, preparing to use a long line to catch a big fish. Su Fong felt a lingering fear in his heart. If that foreign expert had attacked the heavenly law avatar, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Not only would he have lost the heavenly law avatar, but everyone in the heavenly law avatar's internal world would have suffered. Fortunately, Su Fong had discovered it in advance. Su Fong used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to erase the imprint, and only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Su Fong entered the internal space of Heaven Pavilion from the side door. Qin Yu, Bai Ling, and the others had been worried about Su Fong's safety. Now that they had reunited with Su Fong's true body, they had endless things to say to him. Bai Ling transmitted a thought. "Brother, let me out. I've been bored to death all these years." Su Fong smiled and released Qin Yu and Bai Ling from the Dao Palace. Qin Yu and Bai Ling were shocked when they saw the internal space of Heaven Pavilion. Then, they transformed into their true bodies and flew freely in the starry sky, enjoying themselves. Ever since Dao Zhu of Shixian died and Goddess Lua was captured, Su Fong's mood had been somewhat gloomy. Seeing this scene, Su Fong's mood finally turned for the better. When Qin Yu and Bai Ling had had enough fun, they flew to Su Fong's side. Qin Yu was still in the form of a giant Qing Peng, while Bai Ling transformed into the appearance of a little girl. She and Su Fong sat on Qin Yu's back and slowly flew toward Migres Star. It was rare for Su Fong to enjoy such a peaceful time, especially after witnessing the destruction of Shixian Mountain and experiencing a life-and-death situation. This kind of peaceful time was especially hard to come by. When they were about to approach Migres Star, a carriage suddenly flew out from Migres Star. The carriage was incomparably luxurious and resplendent, surrounded by a dazzling aura of treasures. 12 divine birds, Ice Feather Divine Luan, pulled the carriage. Ice Feather Divine Luan possessed the bloodline of the Divine Phoenix and was considered a top existence among the Big Goblin. Before the demon world was destroyed, they were one of the top races of the demon race. These 12 Ice Feather Divine Luan's strength was comparable to an Upper Dao Void Realm cultivator. Now, they were actually used to pull a carriage. After the demon world was destroyed, the demon race had actually declined to this extent. At the same time, it could be seen that the owner of the carriage was not ordinary. It could be said to be awe-inspiring. Qin Yu felt very uncomfortable with the Ice Feather Divine Luan's aura. Letting out a cry, she raised her head and flew into the sky, preparing to avoid the carriage from above. Where did this big goblin come from? You actually dare to ride above this seat's head? Kill for this seat. A domineering and ice-cold female voice came from the carriage. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 figures flew out from inside the carriage. Then, they urged 3 streaks of sword qi to attack Qin Yu. The 3 streaks of sword qi were incomparably powerful, reaching the height of the Upper Dao Void Realm. Su Fong's brows furrowed. A burst of divine might rolled out and shattered the sword qi. Who is it? Those 3 Migres Star cultivators also realized that they had encountered a powerful expert. They did not dare to continue attacking Qin Yu and flew towards Qin Yu. What, you even want to kill this seat? Su Fong coldly looked at those 3 cultivators. We do not dare. The divine light of the 3 Migres Star cultivators instantly changed, and they hurriedly saluted Su Fong. That female voice came from the carriage again. This seat ordered you to kill that big goblin. Why are you still not attacking? One of the Migres Star cultivators helplessly said, reporting to Mistress, it is Su Fong's Vice Star Lord, Mistress? Su Fong's brows furrowed. As it turned out, the woman in the carriage was actually the Migres Star Lord's Dao companion. This woman was an Upper Dao Void Realm female cultivator. Su Fong had heard of her before, but she had never seen her before, let alone have any interactions with her. Just a stray dog from the western Black Mountain. You dare to look down on this seat like this? Kill that big goblin for this seat. Whoever dares to obstruct, kill them all. The domineering voice of the Migres Star Lord's Tao companion came again. Yes, mistress. There was no other way. Although those 3 Migres Star cultivators were very afraid of Su Fang, they had no choice but to obey. Vice Star Lord, this one does not dare to disobey mistress's orders. Please withdraw. The 3 Migres Star cultivators cupped their fists at Su Fang. Then, at the same time, they released Sword Qi to attack Qinyu. Scram! Su Fang released a yin-yang heavenly wheel and directly sent the 3 Migres Star cultivators flying. Su Fang, before beating a dog, you still have to look at its master. You actually dared to humiliate this seat's slave. That is the same as humiliating this seat. How can this seat tolerate you? The voice of the Migres Star Lord's Tao companion came from the carriage. Then, she actually urged the carriage to charge straight at Qinyu. Not to mention the 12 ice feather divine luans pulling the carriage, that carriage was not just for decoration. It was an extremely powerful king-grade Xianbao. It carried an unstoppable momentum. Even Tao saints would have to avoid it. The Migres Star Lord's Tao companion actually planned to use the carriage to kill Su Fang. This seat did not want to lower myself to your level because you are a woman. However, you want to take a mile after taking an inch. Instead, you want to kill this seat. Then, don't blame this seat for being merciless. Su Fang let out a snort of laughter. His slaughter intent suddenly erupted and swept toward the carriage that was charging up. Boom! As Su Fang's blood-fiend Dharma body continued to fuse with the heart of the foreign race elite, his slaughter intent and power became even more shocking. Just the slaughter intent that erupted was enough to crush the will of an ordinary Tao Saint elite and shake their Tao heart. Under the impact of Su Fang's slaughter intent, the 12 snow feather divine luans let out cries filled with fear and despair. They were so frightened that they frantically fled in different directions. The carriage was pulled by the 12 snow feather divine luans until it swayed left and right. A woman in a gorgeous palace dress fell out of the carriage. Her Tao heart was shattered, and her beautiful face was pale. Under the impact of Su Fang's slaughter intent, she could not help but be so frightened that she peed her pants. Light yellow liquid dripped from her lower body. The 3 Migres Star cultivators were also affected by Su Fang's slaughter intent. The 3 of them trembled in their Tao hearts, and their faces were pale. They looked at Su Fang with eyes full of fear and reverence. They felt as if they had seen a peerless ferocious beast. Su Fang glanced at the woman indifferently and was about to let Qingyu leave. Suddenly, a thunderous roar came from the Migres Star. Su Fang, you dare to humiliate this seat's Tao companion. This seat will never forgive you. Chapter 31:26. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile and used the blood prison soul slashing blade. A killing intent and aura that was 10 times more terrifying than before suddenly erupted, forming a blood prison in an instant. A lifelike figure of Su Fang in blood-red clothes rose from the blood prison like a killing god. He waved his hand and slashed out with the blood blade. Chi chi chi. The blade radiance swept out like a river of blood and collided with Migres's will, causing a series of silent explosions. When the aftershock of the collision of wills disappeared, Migres's figure appeared. He looked at Su Fang with surprise and disbelief in his eyes. The collision of wills this time was actually evenly matched. Migres was a Tao Saint and not an ordinary one. He was a peerless expert of the upper Tao Saint realm. Among the giants of Heaven Pavilion, his strength was second only to the Sovereign and the other 2 great elders. Su Fang was only at the upper Tao Void realm, not even at the peak. There was a whole realm difference between the 2. The collision of wills just now was actually evenly matched. How could Migres not be shocked? Humph, it's just because he received Lord Daozu's favor and fused with the heart of the alien expert, Slaughter. Migres quickly found an explanation that he thought was reasonable. During the Jiuxuan heavenly selection, the heaven-piercing Blood King Rotan stole Slaughter's heart in the Blood Valley. Later, it was obtained by Su Fang. Everyone in the Eastern Xian divine realm knew about this. Migres naturally thought that Su Fang had such a shocking killing intent because Su Fang had Slaughter's heart. It had nothing to do with Su Fang's strength. Su Fang was rude to me, wantonly humiliated me, and even took liberties with me. If you don't help me vent this anger, how can I still have the face to continue living? That woman in palace attire burst into tears at the Migres Star Lord. Su Fang, you're courting death. I've long known of your lecherous reputation, but I didn't expect you to dare to humiliate my Dao companion. I'll fight you to the death. Seeing the sorry state his cultivation companion was in, the Migres Star Lord immediately flew into a rage. Terrifying flames burned in his eyes as if he had been cuckolded. Su Fang raised his eyebrows and a fierce look flashed in his eyes. Who would have thought that the Migres Star Lord's Dao companion would be so shameless, turning around and making false accusations? Bai Ling angrily said on Qingyu's back, "Shameless, really too shameless. With your beauty, even if you were given to Su Fang for free, he wouldn't want you. Would he take advantage of you? Su Fang, even the big goblin beside you dares to be so arrogant. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I swear I'm not human." Celestial Master Migres shouted with a murderous aura. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. "If you want to fight, let's fight. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Just as the battle was about to erupt, a powerful will suddenly descended, separating Su Fang from the Migres Star Lord. Immediately after, the sovereign of the Heaven Pavilion flashed out of nothingness. The supreme majesty of the half-step Daozu completely dispersed the murderous aura in the air. Ho-ho-ho! One figure after another streaked across the sky. The leaders of Heaven Pavilion were all present. These big shots had no choice but to come. Both Migres Star Lord and Su Fang were high-ranking members of Heaven Pavilion. If the two of them had a conflict and things got out of hand, Dongxian Daozu would be alerted, and no one would have an easy time. The sovereign of the Heaven Pavilion looked at the Migres Starlord, raised his white brows, and shouted imposingly, "Migres Starlord, how dare you attack Su Fang? What did I tell you back then?" The Migres Starlord's arrogance instantly vanished. The sovereign of the Heaven Pavilion cupped his fist. "I was impulsive and alarmed you. Please forgive me." The sovereign of the Heaven Pavilion's expression eased a little, and he asked in a low voice, "What exactly happened to make you, an upper-level Dao saint, lose your Dao heart?" The Migres Starlord looked at Su Fang and couldn't help but gnash his teeth. This man occupied half of the Migres Star as soon as he came to Heaven Pavilion. I had no complaints and treated him with respect. Who knew that this man was so arrogant and despotic that he would even wantonly humiliate and molest my Dao partner? I couldn't take it anymore, so I prepared to attack. The sovereign of the Heaven Pavilion swept the Migres Starlord's Dao partner with his divine light. Seeing her in such a sorry state, it really did look like she had been molested. The sovereign's expression darkened. The other leaders also looked at Su Fang with unfriendly expressions. When Su Fang was chosen by the heavens in Jiuquan, he had gained a reputation for being lecherous due to various misunderstandings. Everyone in Dongxuan's upper echelon knew about it, but they had all laughed it off. Now that they saw the state of the Migres Starlord's Dao partner, most of them believed it and felt rather ashamed of Su Fang's behavior. My Dao partner was humiliated. How can I bear such a great humiliation? I don't understand. Even if this man is Daozu's disciple, why is he treated so well by the Heaven Pavilion? How dare a mere void Dao cultivator stand side by side with me? And those stray dogs from Sichuan Mountain, why does the Heaven Pavilion keep these freeloaders? What right does he have to be so arrogant in the Heaven Pavilion? First, he occupied half of the Migres Star, and now he even dares to humiliate my Dao partner. If you don't give me an explanation this time, I will definitely meet Lord Daozu and demand justice. The Migres Starlord was furious. He was unforgiving and aggressive, his words like swords. His Taoist companion was also weeping along with him. She looked heartbroken. The sovereign frowned deeply, thinking about how to deal with this matter. Suddenly, Su Fang sneered. "This is the first time I've seen someone take the initiative to wear a green hat. How ridiculous!" The Migres Starlord's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets from anger. The woman in the palace gown began to wail again. The Heaven Pavilion's sovereign said in a low voice, "Su Fang, you'd better give a reasonable explanation." Tua Qianji also spoke up quickly. "Su Fang, what's the reason? Tell us honestly." "Since Lord Supreme wants to explain, isn't it simple?" Su Fang smiled lightly, and a vertical eye suddenly split open between his brows. The three eyes flickered with the mysterious Xian Guang that deduced and changed mysteriously. Future True Eye. This was a supreme divine ability that came from the mysterious solution of heaven's divination. Not only could it see the future, but it could also go back to the past. It was very similar to the passage of time divine ability, but it was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful. The vertical eye between his brows constantly changed light and shadow. Then, Su Fang projected it forward with his divine power, turning it into a lifelike image. The image changed, showing the scene of the conflict with the Migres Starlord and his Tao partner. It was as if it had really happened before his eyes. The truth had been revealed. The Heaven Pavilion's sovereign stared at the Migres Starlord and said indifferently, "Migres Starlord, what else do you have to say?" The Migres Starlord's Tao partner's crying stopped abruptly. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of shame and anger. The Migres Starlord's face was also ashen, and he did not say a word. Su Fang looked at the Migres Starlord and shouted domineeringly, "Now, I will tell you why I, Su Fang, can be regarded so highly by Daozu and enjoy the treatment of a Tao Saint expert in the Heaven Pavilion with my Void Tao cultivation. And why I dare to look down on you, a Tao Saint expert." The Migres Starlord sneered disdainfully. "You just got first place because you were lucky enough to be chosen by the heavens in Jiuquan. So what? There are many geniuses, but how many of them can become experts in the end? In front of me, you have no right to be arrogant. A frog at the bottom of a well." Su Fang snorted. Then, he looked at Tua Qianji. "Lord Tua Qianji, please tell this frog at the bottom of a well everything about those time mirages." "Yes." Tua Qianji nodded and said. Su Fang comprehended countless time mirages in the chaotic heavenly tide and gave them all to the Heaven Pavilion. Including the mirages of Tao Saints and Daozu that the higher-ups are comprehending, they all came from Su Fang. What? Other than the sovereign and the other two elders, the expressions of the other higher-ups changed instantly, and the way they looked at Su Fang instantly changed. They had comprehended a lot from the time mirages, and almost everyone had a breakthrough, which meant that everyone had received Su Fang's favor. Among them, there were 3 time mirages of Daozu's cultivation, alchemy, and treasure refinement. To the entire Heaven Pavilion, these were incomparably precious treasures, and it would not be an exaggeration to call them the most precious treasures of the pavilion. What was even more shocking was that Su Fang could comprehend so many time mirages. It was really inconceivable, and it showed how extraordinary he was. "So those mirages all came from you. I am ashamed that I did not thank you for such a great favor." "Thank you very much." Many higher-ups cupped their fists and thanked Su Fang. Su Fang smiled faintly and continued Tua Qianji's words, saying, "There is one more thing that Lord Tua Qianji does not know. In the mirage that I entrusted you to bring to Master Daozu, there was also the realization that the top expert of Daozu had after he failed to break through to a higher realm. It was with this mirage that Master comprehended and touched the supreme realm that surpassed the limits of Daozu." Everyone, including the Heaven Pavilion's sovereign, gasped, and the way they looked at Su Fang changed again. Only then did everyone realize that Su Fang's contribution to the Heaven Pavilion was far beyond their imagination. It was no wonder that Dongxian Daozu thought so highly of him. Not to mention giving him half of the Migres star. Even if he gave him the entire Migres star, it would not be excessive at all. No one dared to disagree. Who knew? Su Fang stared at the Migres star master again and said in a cold and embarrassed voice, "Let me tell you why I dared to look down on you, a Tao Saint expert. I also want to tell you why the Western Mystery Mountain was destroyed, and why the cultivators of the Western Mystery Mountain were able to enjoy the same treatment as the Heaven Pavilion cultivators in the Heaven Pavilion." Su Fang waved his hand and grabbed a Xian Guang, which turned into a light screen in front of him. Then, he used his mind to display the scenes that had happened in the Western Mystery Mountain. Everyone saw the foreign race army that had surrounded the Western Mystery Mountain like a tidal wave, as well as the foreign race experts that the Heaven Pavilion leaders looked up to. They also saw how Su Fang activated the longevity lamp without regard for his life, and killed more than 30 foreign race Tao Saints, and injured the souls of many foreign race Daozu experts. Then, there was the picture of the human race Daozu attacking and fighting with the foreign race Daozu experts. The picture was so vivid that one could even feel the terrifying soul-devouring power of the longevity lamp and the shocking aura of the Daozu experts through the picture. Chapter 31:27. They understood. Everyone understood what he meant. The reason why Dongxian Daozu valued Su Fang so much was not because Su Fang was his disciple, nor was it because Su Fang had given so many puppets to Tiange. It was because if Su Fang had not used the longevity lamp to injure Daozu's origin soul, the experts of the human race would not have been able to defeat the alien race. Instead, they would have been seriously injured by the alien race, and who knew how many Daozu would have died. If the alien race had not retreated, after the destruction of the Western Profound Mountain, none of the human divine realms, including the Eastern Profound Divine Realm, would have been spared. Perhaps the alien race army would have already invaded the Eastern Profound Divine Realm. How could they be so peaceful? It could even be said that it was Su Fang who had turned the situation around and saved the entire human race. At the same time, many of the giants were completely shocked and frightened by the powerful strength that Su Fang had displayed. Of course, it was mainly the power of the longevity lamp, the primordial heavenly treasure. Su Fang had activated the longevity lamp and killed alien Tao Saints as if they were chickens. How could they not be shocked by such a terrifying scene? The giants of Tiange also understood that Su Fang now had the shocking strength to kill Tao Saints and injure Daozu. Although his strength came from the longevity lamp, it was also a part of Su Fang's strength. With such shocking strength, why would Su Fang care about the Migres Star Lord? With such strength, so what if he was arrogant and despotic in Tiange? The Migres Star Lord's mind rumbled. Only now did he realize how laughable and stupid his actions towards Su Fang had been. The woman in the palace dress was trembling all over. She was so frightened that she lost control of her bladder again. Pale yellow liquid dripped from her dress, but she was completely unaware. Qin Yu and Bai Ling also understood. What kind of danger had Su Fang experienced in the Western Profound Divine Realm? Su Fang was unforgiving and became aggressive. He displayed the might of a tyrant. My master, Shi Xian Daozu, for the human race, did not hesitate to turn himself into a seal to win a chance of survival for the human race. The cultivators of the Western Mystery Mountain fought with the outsiders, and there was only a slim chance of survival. Are they the stray dogs you mentioned? They live in Heaven Pavilion. Is this what you mean by freeloading? I am. The Migres Star Lord's face was pale as he stammered. Then, Su Fang coldly said, "Ever since I came to the Migres planet, you incited the cultivators of the Migres planet to provoke and oppress the cultivators of the Western Profound Mountain. Some of the Western Profound Mountain cultivators didn't die at the hands of the foreign races, but at the hands of the cultivators of the Migres planet. Can you face the Western Profound Daozu?" The Migres Star Lord's will was on the verge of collapse. He said with a trembling voice, "I was wrong, Not only the cultivators of the western profound mountain, but you even humiliated me. Su Fong shouted coldly, waving his hand in front of him. The scene on the light screen in front of him immediately changed, showing the scene inside and outside of Su Fong's cave abode. The barrier outside Su Fong's cave abode on the Migres planet was shattered, and the inside of the cave abode was a mess. The formation was broken, all kinds of items were broken, and there were broken walls and ruins everywhere. There was also a cultivator with a smug look on his face, wantonly destroying everything inside the cave abode. That person was none other than the eldest disciple of the Migres Star Lord. Boom! The Migres Star Lord felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He staggered and almost fell. The big shots of Heaven Pavilion were all furious. They looked at the Migres Star Lord with eyes full of anger and disdain. The sovereign of Heaven Pavilion said indifferently, "Migres Star Lord, do you know your crime?" The great elder of punishment glared and shouted angrily, "Migres Star Lord, you are really deranged. If you are not severely punished, how will you explain to the Daozu and the Jiuquan human race?" "I know my crime." The Migres Star Lord sighed dejectedly. "I am ashamed to face Su Fong and the cultivators of Xixian. I am willing to bring my cultivation partner to Heavenly Jade Planet's prison to reflect for 1,000,000 years. From now on, the Migres Star Lord is Su Fong. As for the cultivators of the Migres Star who have offended the cultivators of Xixian, I ask the Punishment Hall to investigate. Don't let any of them go. Su Fong, I am narrow-minded. I hope you can forgive me. If there is a chance to redeem myself in the future, I will go through water and tread on fire." The Migres Star Lord cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Su Fong. Then, he waved his sleeve and rolled out a Xian Guang, enveloping his cultivation partner who was almost paralyzed with fear. He flew straight to Heavenly Jade Planet. Su Fong was not surprised. He had originally thought that he would have a battle with the Migres Star Lord. He did not expect that although the Migres Star Lord was narrow-minded and looked down on everyone, he was still someone who could bear the consequences and take the initiative to accept his punishment. In this way, Su Fong could not pursue the matter any further. Besides, he had achieved his goal, so there was no need to be overbearing. "Su Fong, I am also deeply ashamed. I hope you do not hold a grudge against me," the sovereign said apologetically to Su Fong. Su Fong smiled carelessly. "Senior brother sovereign is too polite. I will not stay in Heaven Pavilion for long and will not fight for power with others. The only thing I am worried about is the cultivators of the Xixian Mountain. In the future, please take care of the cultivators of the Xixian Mountain in Heaven Pavilion." The sovereign nodded and said, "Of course. From now on, the cultivators of the Xixian Mountain will have the same status as other cultivators of Heaven Pavilion. They will receive double the resources allocated." The first punishment elder of Heaven Pavilion said in a low voice, "If I find out that a cultivator of Heaven Pavilion is bullying a cultivator of the Xixian Mountain, I will not forgive him." The other big shots also spoke. Their attitude towards Su Fong had changed greatly. Su Fong brought Qing Yu and Bai Ling back to Migres Planet in embarrassment. When Su Fong released the 20,000 seedlings of the Xixian Mountain from the Heavenly Tao Dharma body and gathered with the other cultivators of the Xixian Mountain, the entire eastern part of Migres Planet was filled with thunderous cheers. Then, waves of crying shook the heavens. Not long after, the law enforcement cultivators of Heavenly Jade's Punishment Hall, under the personal leadership of a Vice Star Lord, sent Ling Xiao, who had almost been locked up in prison, back to Migres Planet. Then, the law enforcement cultivators of the Punishment Hall stationed themselves on Migres Planet and began to investigate the matter of the cultivators of Migres Planet bullying the cultivators of the Xixian Mountain. Once it was confirmed, they were all locked up in the prison of Heavenly Jade Planet. What awaited them was the severe punishment of Heaven Pavilion. The eldest disciple of Migres Planet Lord met with great misfortune. His cultivation was directly destroyed and he was expelled from Heaven Pavilion. After that, all the cultivators of Migres planet withdrew from Migres planet and were assigned to other planet. As a result, the entire Migres planet belonged to the cultivators of the Xixian mountain, and Su Fang naturally became Migres planet lord. This matter shook Heaven Pavilion. When the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion heard of the tragic battle of the Xixian mountain, as well as the deeds of Xixian Daozu and Su Fang, not only were they not dissatisfied with the fact that the cultivators of the Xixian mountain had occupied Migres planet, they instead felt deep respect for the cultivators of the Xixian mountain. In Heaven Pavilion, the cultivators of the Xixian mountain received special treatment everywhere and were respected by the cultivators of Heaven Pavilion. After experiencing a life and death calamity, the cultivators of the Xixian mountain realized the importance of strength. They worked harder than any other cultivator of Heaven Pavilion in their cultivation. Coupled with the abundant resources, the speed of their improvement was naturally astonishing. Su Fang also began to settle down in his cultivation. After 10 million years, the Divine Master of 10 Directions would break through the shackles of the seal. At that time, the human clan would once again fall into a catastrophe. At that time, no one would be able to escape, and they would not be as lucky as last time. Su Fang felt a sense of urgency, as if time did not wait for him. He threw everything to the back of his mind and focused on his cultivation, striving to break through the peak of the Tao Void stage and enter the Tao Saint realm as soon as possible. While the Migres Star Lord reflected on his mistakes in the heavenly prison, his cave abode was also left empty. In order to cultivate, Su Fang also stayed in his cave abode. As expected of a giant of Heaven Pavilion, the Migres Star Lord's cave abode had its own universe. It was a pure and holy place that was like a paradise. Its origin was also connected to the entire Heaven Pavilion. In the space inside the cave abode, there was a canyon where the flow of time was very different from the outside world. 100 years passed in the outside world, but only 1 year passed in the canyon. Moreover, this canyon was naturally formed and was not man-made like the formation inside Fuyao Cave Abode. Therefore, cultivating in the canyon did not have the same drawbacks as the time formation in Fuyao Cave Abode. The impact on one's cultivation was minimal. Su Fang cultivated in the canyon. He mainly cultivated the Jiuxuan Wuji Sutra and comprehended the Nightmare Statue. At the same time, he also swallowed all kinds of elixirs and spiritual objects in preparation for breaking through to the peak. He also continuously integrated the heavenly coffin and the longevity lamp. When he became a Tao Saint, he would be baptized by the heavenly tribulations and cultivate the heavenly coffin spell body and longevity spell body. The heavenly secret life shrinking spell and the heavenly secret unravel, as well as the formless heavenly wheels and my master's 10 directions seal, were also in the process of cultivation. Time flew by and Su Fang had unknowingly stayed in the canyon for more than 200,000 years. After such a long period of cultivation, Su Fang finally reached the peak of the upper Tao Void stage. One more step and he would reach the Tao Saint stage. With my current abilities, I should be qualified to decipher the memories in the Divine Master of 10 Directions. Su Fang obtained the My Master's 10 Directions seal in Shirua Valley. At the same time, he also obtained some memories of the Divine Master of 10 Directions. In the past, Su Fang's cultivation was too low and he did not have the ability to decipher all the remaining memories in the Divine Master's mind. Now that he was at the peak of the upper Tao Void stage, he should be able to decipher all the memories. Since the human race cannot tolerate this master, so what if this master betrays the human race? The moment Su Fang's consciousness seeped into the Divine Master of 10 Directions' mind, the Divine Master of 10 Directions' domineering and unbridled voice immediately reverberated in his mind. Even with Su Fang's current cultivation, his Tao Palace, Tao Heart, and Origin Soul trembled. However, it was not as frightening as before and he quickly returned to normal. Su Fang felt as if he had turned into the Divine Master of 10 Directions and experienced everything that the Divine Master of 10 Directions had experienced. After around 6 hours, Su Fang finished deciphering all the memories in the Divine Master of 10 Directions' mind. It felt as if he had experienced a lifetime of reincarnation. Su Fang had the misconception that a lifetime had passed. At the same time, deciphering the Divine Master of 10 Directions' memories exhausted Su Fangda's energy, and he felt dispirited. Who would have thought that the Divine Master of 10 Directions actually had such an astonishing past? Su Fang wiped away his sweat and let out a long sigh. As it turned out, Su Fang had learned from the Divine Master of 10 Directions' memories why the Divine Master of 10 Directions was not tolerated by the experts of the human race. The Divine Master of 10 Directions possessed extraordinary talent and was a peerless genius that the human race had never seen before. Even Su Fang could only look up to him in the dust. After cultivating for 100 years, he stepped through the gates of cultivation and went from a mortal to a Tao True Realm cultivator. After 1,000 years, the Divine Master of 10 Directions became a Tao Lord. Such talent shook the entire Jiuquan and was hailed as an unprecedented peerless genius of the human race. When he was at the peak of the Tao Lord realm, the Divine Master of 10 Directions took the risk to venture into the outer realm chaos and remained silent for 100,000 years. Chapter 31:28. In a mere 100,000 years, the God Lord of 10 Directions had become a Tao Saint. After returning to the human world, the God Lord of 10 Directions went to the various factions of the Jiuquan God realm and challenged them, defeating all of them. Some sects and god clans even sent out large groups of experts to hunt down the God Lord of 10 Directions, but none of them were able to capture him. Instead, the God Lord of 10 Directions took revenge on them, killing countless experts and destroying countless factions. After challenging all of the famous experts of the various factions of the 9 divine realms, the God Lord of 10 Directions suddenly disappeared. This disappearance lasted for another 100,000 years. It turned out that he had left the Jiuquan God realm and gone to the Yao world to continue challenging the experts of the Yao race. The result was that, just like in the human world, the God Lord of 10 Directions stirred up a storm of blood in the Yao world. No one except the Daozu could stop him. After sweeping through the Yao world, the God Lord of 10 Directions was now a peak Daozu God Saint. He returned to the human world and went to the various factions of the Jiuquan God realm once more. This time, however, he did not go to challenge them. Instead, he went to visit the Daozu experts of the various factions. The God Lord of 10 Directions made an extremely arrogant request to the Daozu experts. The human world had been attacked by the foreign races time and time again, and the Jiuquan God realm had even been on the verge of destruction several times. The reason for this was that the human race did not have an undying existence who could surpass the Daozu. They were viewed as a low-level race, and thus became the target of the foreign race's invasion. The God Lord of 10 Directions' request was extremely arrogant. He proposed to the Daozu experts that the entire human world should be used to raise an undying expert. The only person in the human race who had the right to become undying was the God Lord of 10 Directions. It was not that the God Lord of 10 Directions was arrogant. Given his talent and his unparalleled speed of improvement, he really did have a chance of becoming undying. However, the human world was filled with many factions, and the 9 divine realms each had their own way of governing. How could it be possible to gather the strength and resources of the 9 divine realms to raise a single person? The Daozu experts naturally refused the God Lord of 10 Directions' request. Not only that, but the various forces also started to join forces to suppress the 10 Directions' divine masters. The heaven-defying rise of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions had affected the interests of countless factions. Coupled with his arrogant and domineering behavior, countless experts had died at his hand. In his fury, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions began a massacre. On one hand, it was for revenge, and on the other hand, it was to force the various factions to agree to his demands. The strength of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions was truly astonishing. With his half-step Daozu cultivation, not only was he invincible beneath the Daozu, even ordinary Daozu experts would find it difficult to deal with him. That was until one of the Daozu experts of the central profound divine realm's 5 great god races was killed by the 10 Directions Divine Lord, which shook the entire Jiuquan divine realm. Thus, the Daozu of the human race began to move out, hunting down the divine lords of 10 Directions. After fusing with the memories of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions, Su Fang felt like he had been through one life-or-death battle after another, and the dangers and hardships were truly indescribable. It was only when the Divine Lord of 10 Directions was killed by the Li Daozu and the other Daozu experts that the Divine Lord of 10 Directions vanished from the human world. Everyone thought that he had died. That was the end of the remnant memories in his mind. Strange. In the memories of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions, he was already killed, so why was he still able to leave behind this thought in Void Valley? Could it be that the one killed was one of his avatars? In addition to his shock, Su Fang was even more perplexed. What perplexed Su Fang even more was that the thought that the Divine Lord of 10 Directions had left behind in Void Valley contained the supreme ability, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions seal. It was clear that he wanted to leave behind a legacy for the human race so that his supreme techniques would not be severed. But why would the Divine Lord of 10 Directions lead an army of foreign races to destroy the human race? He didn't understand. He simply couldn't understand why the Divine Lord of 10 Directions would act so differently. Then what is hidden in the ruins of God? Su Fang couldn't figure it out, so he simply stopped thinking about it. After he became a Tao saint, he would have to make a trip to the ruins of God. At that time, he would be able to unravel the truth and perhaps find a way to resolve the calamity that would befall the human race 10 million years from now. After settling down in the valley for nearly 10,000 years, Su Fang left the cave abode. It turned out that Su Fang had sensed that he was about to break through his limit and needed to find a place to break through to the Tao Saint realm. Su Fang took out a rune talisman and transmitted his nascent spirit voice to the Wine Saint before informing the Heaven Pavilion's sovereign. After making some arrangements on Migres planet, he quietly left Heaven Pavilion. The Western Mystery Mountain cultivators had already taken root in East Profound Heaven Pavilion and didn't need Su Fang's help anymore. Su Fang could leave with peace of mind. Flying out of Heaven Pavilion, he immediately attracted countless senses. Some of the elders and disciples who were entering and exiting the gate all revealed looks of admiration when they saw Su Fang and bowed to Su Fang. As Su Fang nodded, he was about to leave. At this time, a dozen cultivators flew out from the side door. Planet Lord Su Fang, please wait. It turned out to be Exalted Venerable Spring Autumn, Dongxian Wuhan, Dongxian Daoyan, Dongxian Huihuang, and other disciples. Dongxian Yichen and Dongxian Chan were also among them. After Su Fang came to Heaven Pavilion, Exalted Venerable Spring Autumn and the others had also gone to Migres planet to pay their respects. However, Su Fang had been cultivating in seclusion and had only seen them a few times through clones of his thoughts. Planet Lord Su Fang, where are you going? Exalted Venerable Spring Autumn asked in a very polite tone, as if he was facing a big shot. However, Su Fang's current identity was indeed a big shot of Heaven Pavilion. His reputation in Heaven Pavilion was so high that it was even higher than some planet lords. Dongxian Wuhan and the others were already elders of Heaven Pavilion, but they still maintained respect for Su Fang. Dongxian Yichen and Dongxian Chan had already become Tao companions. Although their strength wasn't particularly outstanding among the disciples of Heaven Pavilion, they were the closest to Su Fang, so their status in Heaven Pavilion was also quite high. I'm going to the outer realm chaos to break through to Tao Saint. I might be gone for a long time, Su Fang answered honestly. There was nothing to hide. The outer realm chaos was so vast that even if someone had ulterior motives, as long as Su Fang entered the outer realm chaos, it would be very difficult to find him in the vast chaos. Su Fang took the initiative to reveal his cultivation. The stronger he was, the less people in Heaven Pavilion would dare to touch the cultivators of Sichuan Mountain. Break through to Dao Saint? Exalted Venerable Spring Autumn and the others were all shocked. The reverence in their eyes when they looked at Su Fang intensified. Everyone, Su Fang will take his leave. Su Fang cupped his fists at Exalted Venerable Spring Autumn and the others, then teleported away. After Su Fang left, the elders and disciples once again burst into a flurry of discussion. They were all shocked by the speed of Su Fang's improvement. What no one noticed was that among the crowd, there was an extremely ordinary disciple with an ordinary appearance and strength. As he looked in the direction Su Fang left, a dark light flashed in his eyes, and then he quietly disappeared. After Su Fang left the eastern profound divine realm, he activated the Fuyao cavern and transformed into a giant Kuanping, traversing through the outer realm chaos. With Su Fang's current cultivation and his purple fate body, he could now activate the full power of the Fuyao cavern. In addition, he had countless godstones in his hands, so he didn't care about the cost. The speed of the Fuyao cavern was truly astonishing. It was comparable to the speed of an expert at the peak of the upper Dao Saint realm. Su Fang sat cross-legged inside the Fuyao cavern, but he didn't cultivate. Instead, he closed his eyes and calmed his mind, adjusting his Dao heart to a tranquil state as he prepared to break through to Dao Saint. About 3,000 years, Su Fang had finally entered the outer realm chaos. He planned to go directly to the Ice Soul Sanctuary after his breakthrough and meet with Xuanxin, then go to the ruins of God. Therefore, Su Fang chose to go in the direction of the Ice Soul Sanctuary. The Fuyao cavern flew for another 1,000 years in the outer realm chaos. One day, it suddenly stopped, and Su Fang flew out of the Fuyao cavern. Su Fang used his divine power, and together with the formation, he created a 1,000-foot-wide substance in the outer realm chaos. It's time to break through to the Dao Saint realm. Su Fang released his subordinates, Tu Xiu, Gui Gui, Refined Corpse, and the Spider, to protect the surroundings and prevent any accidents from happening. Su Fang then sat cross-legged on the substance, and unknowingly, dozens of years passed. Suddenly, his power began to surge, and in an instant, it swept through his entire body. The pain of being torn apart spread throughout his body. Qi. A burst of tribulation qi shot out from Su Fang's body, and then a burst of void energy seeped into the outer realm chaos. Whoosh, whoosh. The ethereal heavenly Tao sensed the aura released by Su Fang's breakthrough and formed a miraculous resonance with it. From the void, the cold outer realm chaos, a dark tribulation cloud rolled out, and in an instant, it covered an area of 1,000,000 miles, as if it was going to cover the entire outer realm chaos. The tribulation cloud was extremely shocking, and it was impossible for an ordinary void Dao cultivator to have such a large tribulation cloud when he was advancing to the Dao Saint realm. From this, one could see how shocking Su Fang's talent and strength were. Su Fang was currently focused on dealing with the tribulation, but what he did not expect was that in the outer realm chaos thousands of miles away from him, a black-robed man with a pair of antennae on his head and horned divine armor was looking coldly at Su Fang, who was undergoing the tribulation. The black-robed man's eyes flashed with Su Fang's surroundings, and when he saw the shocking tribulation cloud, his eyes flashed with shock. This black-robed man was an expert from the Mayfly race, Yu Shui. During the Battle of the Western Black Mountain, Yu Shui was lucky to have reacted early and managed to save her life, and did not have her soul swallowed by the longevity lamp like many other Dao saints of other races. Later on, when the army of other races retreated, Yu Shui accidentally discovered Su Fang's heavenly Dao Dharma body, and so she once again thought of using the longevity lamp. Who knew that when the heavenly Dao Dharma body returned to Heaven Pavilion, Su Fang's original body discovered Yu Shue's trick and directly destroyed it. However, Yu Shui was extremely cunning. She sensed that the aura left in the heavenly Tao Dharma body went to Heaven Pavilion, and then it was destroyed. So she came to Heaven Pavilion, took over the body of a Heaven Pavilion disciple, and hid in Heaven Pavilion. Finally, when Su Fang left, Yu Shui followed Su Fang all the way to the outer realm chaos. Chapter 31-29. As expected of the human races, Su Fang. His heavenly tribulation is so terrifying. If he becomes a Tao saint, who can suppress him other than Daozu? If he activates the longevity lamp? Yu Shui couldn't help but shudder when she thought about how Su Fang had used the longevity lamp to kill Tao saints of other races, as if they were chickens during the Battle of the Western Black Mountain. Human races, Su Fang, since I have my eyes on you this time, how can I let you escape? If I kill you, I will have my revenge for having half of my soul devoured. The longevity lamp will belong to me, and your head can be exchanged for a handsome reward from the higher-ups. Yu Shui made up her mind. Her eyes were full of greed as she patiently watched from afar. Rumble! The aura of the heavenly tribulation surged in the tribulation clouds. Terrifying thunder rumbled in the tribulation clouds. I wonder what my great tribulation of the Tao saint will be. Su Fang stared at the terrifying tribulation clouds in the sky. He was slightly nervous. A cultivator's heavenly tribulation was when a cultivator's cultivation reached a certain limit and resonated with the heavenly Tao, attracting a corresponding test. After surpassing the Tao master realm, every cultivator cultivated a different Tao and attracted different heavenly tribulations. Not only were the types of heavenly tribulations different, but their power also varied. The greater the power of the heavenly tribulation, the greater the danger the cultivator would face. Of course, once the heavenly tribulation succeeded, it meant that the cultivator's strength would increase. After the battle at the Western Black Mountain, the Heavens Will platform expert Tian Su Daozu had told Su Fang that he would encounter a great tribulation within 10,000 years. Su Fang guessed that the great tribulation that Tian Su Daozu had mentioned should be the great tribulation of the Tao Saint realm. Rumble! After the tribulation clouds gathered, the sound of thunder became more frequent. Crack! An earth-shattering sound of thunder shook the entire primal chaos. Then, bolts of lightning shot out from the tribulation clouds and headed straight for Su Fang. Lightning tribulation? It doesn't seem very powerful. No, this is not an ordinary tribulation lightning. Su Fang had heaved a sigh of relief at first. Who would have known that the lightning tribulation not only had the power of a divine saint, but it also contained a terrifying power that could attack one's Tao heart. As the sound of thunder entered his ears, Su Fang's Tao heart suddenly trembled. At this moment, he felt like he was about to be blasted into pieces by the tribulation lightning. Luckily, Su Fang had the seven-colored Vajra Tao heart. Furthermore, he had fused with the ice heart flower and the immortal heavenly heart stone. Although he had yet to cultivate the immortal Tao heart, he was still stronger than a Tao saint. If it was an ordinary cultivator at the peak of the upper level of the Tao void realm, just this thunder that shook the Tao heart was enough to shatter the Tao heart. Su Fang was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. How could he dare to underestimate him? Matter flew out in an instant. Before the tribulation thunder descended, Su Fang teleported to a height of 1,000 feet. His body was burning with a chaotic tribulation fire, and his aura was all from the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra. The white bolt of tribulation lightning roared toward Su Fang with a thunderous roar and a world-destroying divine might. Swish! Su Fang flicked his finger. An array of chaotic light surged out from his fingertip. In an instant, it condensed into a Hong Meng heavenly wheel in the sky and collided with the tribulation lightning. The tribulation lightning was extremely shocking. However, it was only at the height of an ordinary Tao saint. The most powerful thunder could not shake Su Fang's Tao heart. The seemingly terrifying tribulation lightning instantly collapsed and shattered under the Hong Meng heavenly wheel's impact. Yu Shui, who was watching from afar, revealed a disdainful smile. He shattered the first heavenly tribulation so easily? It seems like the power of this heavenly tribulation is also very ordinary. It's just that the thunder is loud but the rain is small. Su Fang's talent is also very ordinary. He almost scared me. The second heavenly tribulation came rolling in. It was 2 bolts of crimson tribulation lightning that were even more powerful than before. The thunderous roar that attacked the Tao heart also became even more shocking. However, Su Fang was already prepared. After his Tao heart withstood the impact of the thunderous roar, he continued to use the Hong Meng heavenly wheel. With a boom, the 2 bolts of crimson tribulation lightning were shattered. It was still so easy. Of course, this was because Su Fang had a strong Tao heart and powerful abilities. If he was an ordinary cultivator at the peak of the Tao Void stage, he would probably not be able to withstand the impact of the thunderous roar. Once his Tao heart was damaged, it would be even harder for him to withstand the power of the tribulation lightning. The disdain on Yu Shui's face became even more intense. She did not take Su Fang seriously at all. She was waiting for Su Fang to finish transcending the tribulation. Then, she would take advantage of his weakened state and not give him a chance to activate the longevity lamp to kill him in one blow. The second heavenly tribulation had just been shattered. It did not give Su Fang any time to catch his breath. The third heavenly tribulation came right after. The terrifying thunderous roar was like a tidal wave that attacked Su Fang's Tao heart. Su Fang's Tao heart trembled violently. His will was almost shaken. Then, 3 bolts of purple tribulation lightning shot out from the tribulation clouds like 3 divine dragons. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Such terrifying thunderous roar and tribulation lightning would have killed ordinary Tao saints. However, they still could not do anything to Su Fang. Under Su Fang's primordial heavenly wheel, they were sent flying in all directions and caused huge explosions. My Tao Saint heavenly tribulation does not seem very powerful. Su Fang looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky in shock. The first 3 heavenly tribulations were indeed very powerful. However, compared to Su Fang's abilities, they were nothing. If this continued, Su Fang would be able to easily transcend this Tao Saint heavenly tribulation. The preparations that he had made for this tribulation would not be of any use. Suddenly the tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to be burning. They rolled and boiled. It looked very frightening. Su Fang's heart trembled. A sense of extreme danger surged from the bottom of his heart. However, Su Fang waited for a while with full vigilance. Yet, no more tribulation lightning came. Just as he was feeling surprised, a flame suddenly ignited under Su Fang's feet. It rushed up his legs and quickly burned every corner of his body. He never expected that the 4th heavenly tribulation would not be a lightning tribulation but a fire tribulation. It was also not a fire tribulation that was born from the tribulation clouds. It came from Su Fang himself. Of course, it was not an ordinary fire tribulation. It was also not the tribulation fire that was produced when the tribulation aura burned during a breakthrough. It was a kind of illusory fire. Not only could it burn the physical body to ashes, but it could also burn everything that Su Fang had accumulated in the past. At that moment, Su Fang felt that his entire body was burning. From his physical body to his Tao palace, from his physical flesh to his illusory soul, everything was burning. This 4th heavenly tribulation was more than 10 times more terrifying than the first 3 heavenly tribulations. The first 3 heavenly tribulations came from the outside. With Su Fang's abilities, he could easily resolve them. However, this fire tribulation came from the inside of his body. It was much more terrifying than the lightning tribulation. Su Fang's abilities had reached the level of a divine saint. At this moment, it was completely useless. Although Su Fang was surprised and shocked, he quickly calmed down. He immediately activated the power of his Tao Palace and his life force to resist and destroy the fire tribulation that was igniting in his body. As for his Tao heart and soul, Su Fang did not care about them. What a joke! When he activated the longevity lamp, Su Fang's soul was the wick of the lamp. He had been burned twice. No matter how powerful the Yin fire in his body was, how could it be more powerful than the longevity lamp? After persisting for about 6 hours, the Yin fire gradually dissipated. The fifth heavenly tribulation came again. It was still the same Yin fire, but it was much more intense than the previous one. It had just ignited from the soles of his feet and immediately engulfed his entire body. Even his Tao Palace and the Dharmakaya within it were burning. Su Fang was still activating the primordial qi. After all these years of cultivation and the large amount of primordial qi formed by the threads of the heavenly swallowing insect, Su Fang's Tao Palace had about 1,000 feet of primordial qi. It was enough for him to squander for a period of time. This time, Su Fang lasted for more than 2 hours before finally resolving the fifth heavenly tribulation. Nearly half of his primordial qi had been consumed. His physical body looked normal from the outside, but it was extremely miserable on the inside. There were burn scars everywhere, and some places had even been burned to ashes. Even with his boundless life force, it was difficult for him to recover before the sixth heavenly tribulation arrived. It was the same for his Tao Palace and Dharmakaya. Even his Tao heart and soul felt as if they had been burned in a furnace. However, it was still bearable. Boom! The fifth heavenly tribulation had just subsided when another flame erupted from the soles of his feet like a volcano. In an instant, Su Fang felt as if a volcano was burning fiercely in his body. His flesh, bones, organs, and other parts were all burned to ashes. The heaven-piercing blood king vine that had fused with his physical body was also burned to ashes layer by layer. His Tao Palace also began to shatter. His Dharmakaya were also burned to charcoal. His Tao heart began to melt amidst the burning. The intense pain of his soul being burned almost made Su Fang lose consciousness. The only thing Su Fang could do was to use all his strength to dissolve the terrifying burning power of the Yin fire and protect his physical body and Tao Palace. As for his Tao heart and soul, the Yin fire could not really affect them. Su Fang naturally did not need to pay attention to them. What heavenly tribulation is that? Is it a fire tribulation? Yu Shui, who had been watching Su Fang's tribulation from afar, could not see what was happening in Su Fang's body, but she could sense that Su Fang's aura had become extremely weak. She could also sense the terrifying aura of the fire tribulation in Su Fang's body. Yu Shui was puzzled. She could not understand what kind of heavenly tribulation Su Fang was undergoing. But seeing that Su Fang was now in a severely injured state, Yu Shui was very unhappy. The more serious Su Fang's injuries were, the easier it would be for them to act later. Yu Shui was naturally happy to see this happen. The sixth tribulation did not last for too long. In the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, it finally began to dissipate rapidly. Finally, it disappeared without a trace. Su Fang did not have time to check the state of his body. He did not need to check to know that both his physical body and Tao Palace were in a severely injured state. Chi chi chi. The heavenly swallowing insect suddenly spat out strands of silk, which quickly turned into primordial qi. It was simply too timely. Su Fang's almost depleted primordial qi had finally recovered a little. In order to undergo the tribulation, Su Fang had extracted large amounts of life essence from the corpses of the foreign race cultivators. It was now put to good use. The remaining heaven-piercing blood king vines swallowed it and quickly replenished his body, causing his severely injured physical body to rapidly recover. But Su Fang did not have much time to recover. Soon, the seventh tribulation descended. The tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly began to roil from their burning state. The winds and clouds surged and changed. It was a very strange sight. What kind of tribulation is this? Chapter 31:30. Ho ho ho! The sound of howling wind came from the tribulation clouds, giving Su Fang the feeling that the whole world was howling crazily, as if it was going to tear everything into pieces. Could it be the wind tribulation? Su Fang was surprised, but at the same time, he became even more vigilant. After waiting for a long time, no heavenly tribulation descended. However, Su Fang grew increasingly nervous. The seventh heavenly tribulation was too unusual. It was definitely unusual. It was even more terrifying than the fire tribulation from before. Suddenly, whoosh! A gust of wind blew into Su Fang's skull from the top of his head, burrowing into his Tao palace and corporeal body. In an instant, it swept through every corner of his body. The wind was extremely strange. Su Fang had never seen or even heard of it before. It was extremely powerful. After it blew into the Holy Ji Palace and the body, the Holy Ji Palace began to melt away layer by layer. The flesh and bones of the body quickly disintegrated and turned into nothingness. Even his Tao heart and soul began to rapidly melt and were about to be blown away by the strange tribulation winds. This wind tribulation not only contained the power to melt the physical body, Tao heart and soul, but also contained a terrifying power of tribulation. Even Su Fang's illusory purple fate avatar was not spared. It shattered layer by layer within the wind tribulation. Su Fang had no way to deal with it. He could only hold on to his Tao heart and will, bitterly holding on. The seventh-level heavenly tribulation melted a third of Su Fang's Tao palace and physical body before it gradually disappeared. The primordial qi and vitality that he had just recovered were now completely depleted. His Tao palace and physical body were no longer as sturdy as before, and his injuries had worsened. My Tao Saint heavenly tribulation is so unusual. Am I really going to die in this Tao Saint heavenly tribulation? Su Fang's heart was filled with panic and despair. His Tao Saint heavenly tribulation was simply too terrifying. It wasn't something that a human could withstand. He couldn't see any hope of surviving the heavenly tribulation. Heaven's fate stage Daozu Tian Su's divination was right. This Tao Saint heavenly tribulation was a huge tribulation for Su Fang. The despair in Su Fang's heart only flashed for a moment before it was replaced by determination. He was able to rise from a mortal in a low-level universe to a top powerhouse in the human world. Not only did he rely on luck and talent, but he also had the tenacity of a cultivator. How could he give up so easily? Even if the Tao died, he had to smile and persevere until the end. It's not like I don't have a chance. I have the seven-colored Vajra Tao heart, the longevity lamp, and the heavenly mandate avatar. As long as I protect my Tao heart, soul, and my fate, it means that I won't die. I might even have a chance to come back from the dead. Su Fang recalled his experience when he transcended the Pan-Tsang universe. At that time, he was also completely destroyed, only leaving behind a strand of divine will. In the end, he still came back from the dead and obtained transcendence. Heavenly Mandate Avatar, Protect Fate, Ice Heart Flower, Immortal Heavenly Heart Stone, Tao Heart Fusion, Longevity Lamp, Immortal Soul. Su Fang activated his Destiny Avatar, and the power of fate protected his fate, blocking the power of fate that was trying to kill him. His aura also surged out of his Tao heart, seeping into the Ice Heart Flower and the Immortal Heavenly Heart Stone. In this way, the two treasures that had his aura would be attacked by the wind tribulation. He could use the wind tribulation to refine the two treasures and provide nourishment for his Tao heart. His origin soul and the longevity lamp were also closely integrated. Whoosh! The eighth tribulation appeared again without any warning, directly entering Su Fang's body. Chi! Su Fang's Tao palace began to collapse, and his physical body began to shatter, turning into ashes and finally into nothingness. The invisible wind tribulation wanted to blow away everything that belonged to Su Fang. At the same time, it was also attacking Su Fang's Tao heart. His Tao heart was like a weathered stone, rapidly decaying. The glow it emitted dimmed, and the Tao heart that was as strong as a diamond was actually bumpy from the wind tribulation. Because the ice heart flower and the immortal heavenly heart stone were also integrated with the aura of Su Fang's Tao heart, after being blown away by the wind tribulation, they quickly integrated into the Tao heart, causing it to recover at an astonishing speed. The ice heart flower and the immortal heavenly heart stone were both treasures that were very difficult to integrate. After so many years, Su Fang had only integrated a little. At this moment, Su Fang was borrowing the power of the wind tribulation to make the integration speed more than 100 times faster than usual. As long as his Tao heart was not broken, Su Fang's will would not be extinguished. Even in the face of death, he would not give up. As for Su Fang's soul, no matter how powerful the wind tribulation was, it could not shake the longevity lamp. When the power of the eighth tribulation disappeared from Su Fang's body, his Tao palace was already riddled with holes, as if it had been ravaged and weathered for countless years. Other than the Destiny Avatar, almost all of his other Dharma bodies had been shattered. Although his physical body had not been completely blown away, it had become lifeless. The heavenly devouring insect let out a sorrowful cry and flew out of the Tao palace, circling around Su Fang. It also realized that Su Fang could not escape this tribulation and was worried and anxious for Su Fang. It was also fortunate that Tao ancestor Celestial Su had warned him back then. Su Fang had long realized that transcending the tribulation this time would be extremely dangerous. Therefore, when Su Fang left the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion, he moved his family, friends, and countless lives in the universe inside the Heavenly Tao Avatar, along with the Builder Tree, into the Migres Star Cave abode. He also created a world suitable for low-level cosmic life forms to live in and settled them inside. Otherwise, with the collapse of the Heavenly Tao Avatar, no one would be able to survive. Su Fang's current state was infinitely close to death. His Tao palace had collapsed and his Dharma body had been shattered. He was no different from death. However, he had the longevity lamp, so his soul was equivalent to being immortal. Because his Tao heart had been nourished by the two treasures, the damage was not too great. His will still existed. Moreover, the Heavenly Mandate Avatar was constantly using the power of destiny to ensure that Su Fang's destiny did not disappear along with his life. Therefore, Su Fang could still maintain his consciousness and was not truly dead. However, this feeling was incomparably terrifying. Not many cultivators could bear to watch themselves die without doing anything. That hateful human cultivator is finally at his limit. When Yu Shui saw this scene, he was first surprised and then overjoyed. He also did not expect that such a powerful human cultivator like Su Fang would be unable to survive the Tao Saint heavenly tribulation. However, Yu Shui would not think too much about it. It was fine as long as he could obtain the longevity lamp. The longevity lamp will belong to me. Yu Shui's eyes flashed with greed and excitement. He was about to teleport towards Su Fang. Little did he know, the 9th level of heavenly tribulation appeared very suddenly. Although Yu Shui could not see the formless wind tribulation with his strength, he could sense the terrifying power contained in the wind tribulation. He was immediately surprised and shocked. Su Fang's physical body is dead. There is no sign of life. Why is the heavenly tribulation descending? What kind of heavenly tribulation is that? It is so powerful. Even if I get hit by it, I will be severely injured even if I don't die. Yu Shui was so frightened that he trembled. Fortunately, he was a little late. Otherwise, if he charged towards Su Fang, the heavenly tribulation would mistake him for helping Su Fang resolve the heavenly tribulation. At that time, he would be in big trouble. Whoosh! The 9th tribulation appeared suddenly. The heavenly devouring insect sensed the arrival of the wind tribulation. It suddenly let out a ferocious cry and charged towards the wind tribulation. Puff! The heavenly devouring insect was swept away by the wind tribulation. It let out a shrill cry filled with unwillingness. After rolling a few times, it flew towards Su Fang again. The heavenly devouring insect was so powerful that even the wind tribulation could not do anything to it. However, the heavenly devouring insect could not save Su Fang. Puff, puff, puff. Under the impact of the ninth tribulation, Su Fang was like a snowman blown by the summer wind. Starting from the top of his head, he melted layer by layer. His physical body, Tao Palace, and Dharma body completely turned into nothingness. Even the illusory Dharma body of purple fate was wiped out by the tribulation power of the heavenly tribulation. Su Fang completely disappeared. Because the longevity lamp and blood coffin were not cultivated into Dharma bodies by Su Fang, they were not destroyed like the other Dharma bodies. They floated out with the other treasures and floated around him. Other than the illusory Dharma body of destiny, Su Fang only had his Tao heart and the original soul hidden in the depths of his Tao heart left. The 7 colors Vajra Tao heart was now incomplete, like a piece of rotten wood. More than half of the ice heart flower and immortal heavenly heart stone were also melted. However, they were not destroyed by the tribulation wind. Instead, they merged into the Tao heart. Otherwise, Su Fang's 7 colors Vajra Tao heart would not have been able to escape the fate of being melted. Master! Tu Xiu let out a cry of surprise and teleported towards Su Fang. Whoosh! Gui Gui turned into a puddle of blood and swept over as well. The spider let out an illusory roar and flew over. It could still sense Su Fang's destiny aura. Puzzled, it circled the place where Su Fang had disappeared. The human cultivator Su Fang is dead. His longevity lamp belongs to me. Yu Shui rushed towards the longevity lamp with endless greed and excitement. In an instant, she appeared not far from the lamp. Longevity lamp, O longevity lamp! How could a lowly human like you control a supreme treasure like you? If Su Fang could completely merge with it, how could he have died in the heavenly tribulation? Obediently submit to me. Only a high-level life form like me, an unparalleled expert, has the right to be your master. Yu Shui let out a maniacal laugh. She shot out a black xian guang that covered the longevity lamp. When Tu Xiu saw Yu Shui, his eyes were filled with awe and fear. However, he immediately charged towards Yu Shui without any regard for his own safety. Tu Xiu, your million-strong army has been wiped out. I didn't expect you to be so depraved as to surrender to a human cultivator. Yu Shui naturally recognized Tu Xiu. A cold light flashed in her eyes. She was about to kill Tu Xiu. Yu Shui was a peerless expert comparable to a peak Tao saint of the human race. Tu Xiu, on the other hand, was only a lower Tao saint. He could easily kill her. He did not take her seriously at all. However, at this moment, Gui Gui and the spider attacked at the same time. With Yu Shui's strength, she was wary of Gui Gui's poison. However, Gui Gui could not hurt her. Her thoughts turned into a black xian guang and shackled Gui Gui within. Chapter 31-31. At the end of the battle at Western Black Mountain, the luck spider on the Destiny platform had devoured a large amount of luck, but it had all been devoured by Su Fang's luck spider. At this moment, not only had the luck spider's ability to devour luck become even more shocking, the luck calamity and calamity it released made even a peak Tao saint like Yu Shui tremble in fear. Yu Shui gritted her teeth, and a black cloud surged out of her body. In an instant, the black cloud transformed into a black swarm of ants. Like a tide, they swept towards the spider and surrounded it. Although the ants were unable to harm the luck spider, they could constantly deplete its energy so that it could no longer deal with Yu Shui. Yu Shui waved her hand, wanting to take the longevity lamp, but in the next moment she retreated in shock. An extremely evil qi suddenly erupted from Su Fang's almost dead Tao heart, charging into the tribulation clouds in the sky. The tribulation clouds began to roar as if a ladle of water had been poured into a pot of boiling oil. Whoosh! An evil, ruthless, and murderous chi suddenly surged out of the tribulation clouds in the sky, as if some peerless monster was about to appear. Even a foreign expert like Yu Shui could not help but feel her heart palpitate. In her shock, Yu Shui hurriedly teleported out of the area covered by the tribulation clouds. Tu Xiu's divine light flickered, and under the evil chi of the tribulation clouds, he trembled as he did his best to leave the area covered by the tribulation clouds. The ants surrounding the luck spider were originally ferocious, but when they sensed the chi of the tribulation clouds, they immediately scattered in fright. The luck spider and Gui Gui also fled with them. Even the ferocious heaven-swallowing insects instinctively distanced themselves from Su Fang. Only the refined corpse was still floating quietly in the same place. Whoosh! And Qi descended from the tribulation clouds, instantly landing on Su Fang's Tao heart. This Qi was filled with endless evil, brutality, savagery, and murder, as if it had gathered the divine wills of countless evil gods and killing gods. The Qi was truly terrifying. The Qi of the heaven-swallowing insects was far inferior to the Qi of the tribulation clouds. The evil Qi gathered around the Tao heart, quickly turning from nothingness to reality, transforming into Su Fang's image. Longevity lamp? What's going on? Although Su Fang was dominated by the evil consciousness, he did not fall into a state of madness. He maintained his consciousness and quickly transmitted his thoughts to the original soul of the longevity lamp. Sure enough, he did not disappoint Su Fang. The previous owner of the longevity lamp was a powerful existence that existed with the way of the heavens. It followed that expert and naturally knew many things that Su Fang did not. Master, don't panic. This is a good thing, a very good thing. Great news? How could it be a good thing to be dominated by evil thoughts? Next, the longevity lamp original spirit explained to Su Fang. The Tao Saint heavenly tribulation that Master just experienced was a little different. I heard from my previous Master that this tribulation was called Nirvana. 3 fruits of tribulation. Nya? 3 fruits tribulation? Su Fang was confused. Before going through the tribulation, Su Fang had specially looked through ancient books and consulted many Tao Saints to understand the various Tao Saint tribulations. But he had never heard of Nya? 3 fruits tribulation. Even Shi Xian Daozu had never mentioned it. Although I don't know about Nya, the origin of the 3 fruits tribulation, I heard from my previous master that anyone who can attract this tribulation when ascending to Tao Saint can achieve Tao Immortal. Tao Immortal? What the hell was this? Tao Immortal is a qualification to obtain the true meaning of the way of the heavens and exist with the way of the heavens. Only those who have Tao Immortal are qualified to achieve nirvana and become immortal. At this moment, Su Fang finally understood. Tao Immortal was similar to godhood. Godhood was a qualification to become a god, and Tao Immortal was a qualification to become immortal. Su Fang was very happy, but he was even more confused. He hurriedly asked, "Why can I achieve Tao Immortal?" "I don't know. It should have something to do with Master's cultivation method. It should have something to do with the Jiuxuan Wuji Sutra." Su Fang's cultivation method was different. It was a scripture bestowed by the heavens, so the way he cultivated was the supreme way of the heavens. He cultivated the Jiuxuan Wuji Sutra to the extreme and grasped the true meaning of the way of the heavens, achieving nirvana and existing with the way of the heavens. My previous master said that no matter what kind of life form it is, the cultivation process is mostly the same. Different paths lead to the same destination. The ultimate goal is to shed the shackles of life and transform into an existence like the way of the heavens. Su Fang deeply agreed with the idea of the longevity lamp's original spirit. Every life form had a limit. In the end, it was difficult to escape death. Only by transcending the shackles of life and transforming into an existence like the way of the heavens could one achieve true immortality and eternity. This was the so-called nirvana of cultivation. Master's great Tao Saint tribulation is Nya? Three fruits tribulation is the beginning of the transformation of life. Congratulations, Master. After passing the tribulation and withstanding the test, you will experience Nya? You will become a saint and form three fruit. The longevity lamp spoke tirelessly. It seemed to be very excited. Su Fang asked in confusion, "What are three fruits? What kind of cause, what kind of effect? All life forms have evil thoughts, good thoughts, and obsessions. Therefore, they can form evil, good, and perverse effect. After Master endured the heavenly tribulation of Tao Saint, you destroyed your past and obtained Nya? Thus you can form three fruit. The lightning tribulation that Master went through gave birth to perverse effect. The fire tribulation gave birth to good effects. After the wind tribulation, there will be evil effects. Master is currently forming evil effects. So the current me is not the complete me. It is all the evil thoughts in my heart and the karma caused by my past killings. What should I do? Should I suppress these evil thoughts? Master, please do not suppress them. You can only release them with all your might. This way, the three fruits will be even stronger. In the future, you will be even more powerful. When Master achieves nirvana, your strength will be even more shocking." Only then did Su Fang relax. He allowed the evil thoughts to burn in his heart. All kinds of evil thoughts, murderous thoughts, and other evil thoughts instantly dominated his consciousness. Su Fang only had one thought now: kill, kill, kill. Kill all enemies. Kill all foreign races. Whoever dared to stop him, he would kill them. He would destroy all obstacles, even if it meant mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He would step on piles of white bones. When the descending aura from the tribulation clouds in the sky disappeared, bang! Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes. Endless killing intent surged in his eyes. Evil chi filled the sky. He was almost crazy. The current Su Fang was completely different from his usual self. He had completely transformed into an evil, cold, and ruthless evil god. He was the god of slaughter. His aura was no longer at the level of a void Tao cultivator. It was a Tao saint. Su Fang successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and became a Tao saint. However, this was not the complete Su Fang. First of all, he did not have a physical body. He was a virtual image formed by his thoughts. In the depths of everyone's consciousness, there was hatred, anger, evil thoughts, murderous thoughts, and other kinds of evil thoughts. At this moment, Su Fang was showing his evil side. Su Fang did not die. Instead, he passed the heavenly tribulation of a Tao saint and is reborn after the tribulation? Rebirth. But what kind of evil monster is he now? What kind of great Tao is he cultivating? His aura is so evil and so similar to the Divine Master of 10 Directions. Yu Shue's heart was in turmoil. Her eyes were filled with fear as she looked at Su Fang. Tu Xiu, Gui Gui, Yun Sha, and the heaven-devouring insect also looked at the reborn Su Fang in disbelief. They were all shocked and scared. If you don't act now, not only will you not be able to get the longevity lamp, even I might not be able to escape alive. Yu Shui charged at Su Fang again with murderous intent. A black shadow flashed out of her eyes. The black shadow crossed millions of miles in an instant and arrived in front of Su Fang. It transformed into a ferocious ant head that was about to swallow Su Fang. Kill! Su Fang's eyes were filled with cold and crazy murderous intent. He let out a voice filled with murderous intent. Then, Su Fang's virtual image opened its mouth and blew out a gust of evil chi. It landed on the corpse that seemed to be dead. He was in rebirth right now. At the crucial moment of becoming a saint and condensing 3 fruits, he could not use any magical powers. He could only control the corpse to deal with Yu Shue's attack. Boom! The corpse punched out. A terrifying and evil chi of death surged out like a flood, shattering Yu Shue's attack. The refined corpse was also sent flying, and cracks appeared on its tough body. After all, it was facing a foreign race half-step Daozu. Although its soul had been devoured and its strength had been greatly reduced, it was still not something a mid-level divine saint refined corpse could fight against. Yu Shui snorted coldly. With a wave of her hand, a black cloud of thousands of feet swept over. It was formed by giant black ants that charged at Su Fang. Su Fang remained where he was. He opened his mouth and blew out a gust of qi. It quickly merged into the coffin around him. The coffin suddenly exploded with a gust of qi of death. It suddenly stood upright. The lid of the coffin slid open, revealing the deep and cold interior of the coffin. It faced the black cloud formed by the black ant. The mayfly race was adept at controlling all kinds of insect monsters. These black ants were carefully cultivated by Yu Shui. Not only were there many of them, but each one of them had astonishing defense. Even an ordinary Daozu would find it difficult to kill them all in one go. They were very difficult to deal with. A blood-red light flashed out of the coffin. It transformed into the shadow of a blood coffin and immediately enveloped the black cloud. A power that could seal everything shackled the ant swarm. However, the black ants were extremely ferocious. They opened their mouths and tore at the shackles layer by layer. The shadow of the coffin quickly dimmed. Hiss! The heavenly swallowing insect suddenly let out a sharp hiss. Its ferocious aura seeped into the shadow of the coffin. The swarm of black ants trembled as if they had met a supreme king. Their ferocious aura disappeared. At this moment, a suction force suddenly erupted from the inside of the coffin. It directly sucked the swarm of ants into the coffin. The coffin lid quickly closed and suppressed the powerful swarm of ants. You've just become a divine saint. Let's see how much you can do in my hands. Yu Shui was shocked and furious. If she did not kill Su Fang while he was still in a state of emptiness, she might even be killed by Su Fang, let alone kill him and steal his treasures. Little did she know, just as Yu Shui was about to attack Su Fang with all her might, Su Fang's qi was no longer chaotic. It had calmed down. Chapter 31-32. The changes were still ongoing. The tribulation cloud in the sky changed again. The evil aura quickly disappeared and turned into a holy aura. What's going on now? Yu Shui gawked and dropped her jaw. The strange heavenly tribulation had finally ended, and now there was another strange situation. Yu Shui had never heard of such a method of tribulation transcendence before. She was completely confused by Su Fang. Whoosh! After the tribulation cloud roiled, a holy aura surged out and instantly enveloped Su Fang. As soon as this holy aura seeped into Su Fang's Dao heart, all the evil thoughts in his heart were replaced by a peaceful and compassionate thought. Beside the body of evil karma, it quickly condensed into a holy, vast, and majestic phantom. This is my good karma, a good karma formed by my good karma. There was no need for the longevity lamp to explain anything to Su Fang. In Su Fang's consciousness, the faces of his father, grandfather, Xuanxin, goddess Luo, Qingyu, Bai Ling, and other relatives and friends flashed past. Waves of warmth surged in his heart, and a kind thought surged from the bottom of his heart, causing the phantom to quickly solidify from nothingness. From a mortal to a cultivator, to an immortal, to a god, to transcend the low-level universe, all the way to his current height, he had always had a kind of kindness in his heart. He wanted to protect his family, friends, and even the entire human race. The good deeds and kind thoughts of the past had finally condensed into good karma. No matter what strange things you have, I must kill you today. Yu Shui felt more and more uneasy, and her desire to kill Su Fang grew stronger. After letting out an angry roar, Yu Shui's body began to change. She quickly turned into a giant monster that was 10,000 feet tall. She was like a black ant that had been enlarged countless times. Her entire body was filled with savagery and evil, and her aura was comparable to that of a half-step Daozu. Heaven-swallowing worm, it's time for you to show your power. Su Fang had not yet undergone nirvana? If he succeeded, he would not be able to use his strength. He could only let the heaven-swallowing worm attack. The heaven-swallowing worm turned into a Xian Guang and instantly appeared in front of Su Fang. Its body crazily grew, and it quickly became 1,000 feet tall. At this moment, the heavenly devourer insect truly displayed its powerful and ferocious side. The silver spots on the heaven devourer insect's body had already connected into one, and its entire body had turned silver gray. His face was ferocious, and his entire body emitted a monstrous, ferocious, and ancient aura. He was like a primal chaos beast that had walked out from the heavenly Tao. Yu Shui opened its mouth and roared. An illusory image of a pair of gigantic mandibles appeared around the Su Fang in an instant and bit down viciously. Even a Xian Bao at the peak of King grade would be bitten to pieces by such a terrifying attack. The heaven-devouring insect pounced on the pincer phantom, and the two madly tore at each other. After half an incense stick's worth of time, the pincer phantom shattered. The heavenly devouring insect's aura had also weakened. However, its body was still intact. It could even devour Grand Mist heavenly treasures. Its body was also incomparably fierce. Ho-ho-ho, the tribulation cloud in the sky brewed and roiled, and an aura descended once more. The presence was filled with an unparalleled sense of determination. It merged with Su Fang's Tao heart and rapidly formed a third figure around his Tao heart. Fruit of attainment. Su Fang had been able to break through layers of obstacles from a mortal in a small world. He had overcome all kinds of obstacles along the way because he had an obsession in his heart that ordinary cultivators did not have. This was an obsession that would not give up until he reached his goal. He wanted to become stronger and control his own fate and future. He wanted to defy the heavens. Waves of obsession surged out from Su Fang's heart, causing the fruit of attainment to become more and more solid. His aura also gradually stabilized. In this way, Su Fang finally formed three fruit. Yu Shui did not understand what Su Fang's evil fruit, good fruit, and attainment fruit were, but he sensed an incomparable temptation from the aura of the three fruits. If I can devour Su Fang's three illusory images, the benefits to this seat will definitely be astonishing. Coupled with the longevity lamp, this seat might be able to surpass the shackles and become a supreme Daozu. Yu Shui's heart surged with greed, and his desire to devour Su Fang intensified. But before Yu Shui could attack Su Fang, the heavenly devouring insect and merry spider sensed Yu Shui's killing intent and charged straight at him. Yu Shui had no choice but to concentrate on dealing with the heavenly devouring insect and merry spider. The heavenly devouring insect's current strength was still insufficient to deal with Yu Shui in his true form. But with the merry spider's cooperation, Yu Shui could not free himself to devour Su Fang. Just as Yu Shui was fighting the heavenly devouring insect and merry spider, the tribulation cloud in the sky changed once more. An auspicious aura surged out of it and descended upon Su Fang's Tao heart. Sizzle, the auspicious aura not only contained astonishing life energy, but also a kind of nirvana that could transform life from death. The power of the aura rapidly transformed into blood qi that surrounded Su Fang's Tao heart and began to surge. The illusory images of the evil fruit, good fruit, and attainment fruit automatically entered the blood qi and disappeared without a trace. The heavenly mandate Dharma body, heavenly coffin, and longevity lamp also merged into the blood qi under the control of Su Fang's mind. About 5 minutes later, the blood qi condensed into a human-shaped blood shadow. One could vaguely make out the outline of Su Fang. In that nirvana? With the power of, Su Fang began to reconstruct his physical body, Tao palace, Dharma body, and even his Tao heart began to transform. After condensing the three fruits, Su Fang began to nirvana? Become a saint and reconstruct his physical body. That's the legendary nirvana? Become a saint. Yu Shui finally saw something. Su Fang's current state was the legendary nirvana? Become a saint. Other races were different from humans. Humans needed to constantly sense the heavenly Tao and use it to cultivate. But other races were born with powerful talent. Their blood, bones, and Tao palaces were innately imprinted with the great Tao. Thus, other races only needed to constantly explore their talents to become stronger. And some high-level races could not break through even after cultivating to the extreme. They could continue to nirvana? Through nirvana they would transform again and again. Finally, they would break free from the restraints of their race's talents and become powerful beings. Su Feng was now the same as those legendary high-level nirvana? They were exactly the same. Yu Shui immediately recognized them. This human is really scary. Such a low-level life form can actually be as powerful as a high-level life form? And he has the longevity lamp, a primordial heavenly treasure. If we don't kill him now, he will be a huge threat to our race and the other races. Yu Shui's thoughts of devouring Su Feng and obtaining the longevity lamp faded. Instead, he focused on killing Su Feng and eliminating future threats for the other races. Boom, boom, boom. The giant black ant that Yu Shui transformed into released a shocking black Xian Guang. It sent the spider and the heaven-swallowing insect flying. Then, he charged at Su Feng without any regard for anything else. After all, he was a powerful half-step Daozu. Although half of his soul had been devoured by the longevity lamp, Yu Shui was still very powerful. The heaven-swallowing insect and the spider could not stop him. Whoosh! Yu Shui appeared with a boundless ferocious aura, charging straight at Su Feng. Little did he know, Su Feng was currently in a state of metamorphosis. Was this a kind of nirvana of life? With the power of the heavenly Tao, how difficult would it be to interrupt it? Boom! Although Yu Shui's body was huge and his aura towered into the sky, he was like a tiny ant that had crashed into a rock. His body was bounced back by the nirvana of life. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared on Yu Shui's head and the horned divine armor on his body. One of his antennae was broken as well. He spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Damn it, damn it. How could I forget about this nirvana of life? The metamorphosis cannot be interrupted. I can only wait until he completes his nirvana of life? Only then can I kill him. Wait until you complete your nirvana of life? That is also when you are at your weakest. At that time I will devour you, skin and bones. Yu Shui's ferocity was completely aroused. Although he was severely injured, he was still unwilling to give up. He left Su Feng far away, his eyes flashing with cold and sinister flames. After more than 10 days, Su Feng finally transformed from the blood shadow state into a new physical body. The metamorphosis in his body began to weaken. Su Feng sensed his physical body and realized that it was more than 10 times more profound and vast than before. His life force had also become stronger, even surpassing the limits of a Tao saint. His entire body exuded a holy aura, but it was more transcendent than ordinary Tao saints. At the same time, there was a mysterious aura that even the Daozu experts did not possess. Eternity, immortality. Along with the physical body, the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine was also reborn. Inside his body, there were countless strands of blood that had fused perfectly with his body. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine had become more mature and powerful. It exuded an ancient and evil aura. Su Feng estimated that the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine alone could easily kill an upper Tao saint expert. His Tao palace, Dharma body, and Tao heart had also undergone tremendous changes. The Tao palace had become wider, more vast, and more profound. It felt very similar to the chaotic void in the real world. It seemed like there was nothing, but Su Feng only needed to think about it to transform into thousands of things. In the deepest part of the chaos, the mysterious and ancient primordial aura floated there quietly. It had reached an area of 10,000 feet, but it seemed very thin. This was because he had just become a Tao saint and his Tao palace was empty. In the 9 Dharma body spaces, the Dharma bodies were also reformed. The Dharma bodies were mysterious and deep inside and outside, but their Dharma powers were very weak. The longevity lamp floated in the Dharma body whirlpool space, exuding a mysterious and eternal soul ripple. The soul flame burned quietly. At this moment, the longevity lamp was filled with Su Fang's aura. This was because Su Fang had borrowed the power of nirvana? The time for the metamorphosis was to completely merge with the longevity lamp and cultivate it into a Dharma body. Longevity Dharma body. The heavenly coffin was the same. Su Fang cultivated it into a new Dharma body. It was the heavenly coffin Dharma body. Different from the longevity lamp, the heavenly coffin Dharma body exuded a terrifying aura of death. It felt like it could seal and bury everything. The one that changed the most was Su Fang's seven-colored Vajra Dao heart. Chapter 31-33. Borrowing the power of heavenly tribulation and rebirth? The power of rebirth. Su Fang's Dao heart had mostly merged with the ice heart flower and the immortal heavenly heart stone. Without this opportunity, Su Fang would have needed tens of millions of years, or even longer, to fully merge the two treasures. Su Fang's Dao heart had undergone a metamorphosis after merging the two treasures, but he hadn't been able to cultivate an immortal Dao heart yet. An immortal Dao heart wasn't easy to cultivate. Many Dao saints and Daozu found it difficult to do so. How many years had Su Fang cultivated it? However, his chances of success had greatly increased. Cultivating an immortal Dao heart wasn't an impossible task. Right now I have also become a Dao saint, and my Dao saint realm has undergone nirvana. Once I become a Dao saint, I'll be far stronger than other Dao saints. I've also condensed 3 fruits and will become a Dao immortal. I might even surpass Dao saints or even Daozu and become an immortal. Su Fang's heart was brimming with great joy, confidence, and pride. This was also because he had paid countless hardships and experienced a life and death situation, which allowed him to obtain such a huge transformation. Now, Su Fang's rebirth had completely dissipated. The tribulation clouds in the sky had vanished as well. The chaos returned to its usual cold and calm. Su Fang unleashed a wave of divine might and collected all the treasures floating around him. Then, with a thought, he summoned Gue Gue, the fortune spider, the heaven swallower bug, and Tu Xiu back into the Dao palace. He also put refined corpse back into the heavenly coffin. Human Su Fang, you haven't forgotten me, have you? Yu Shui had finally found her chance. She sneered at Su Fang, brimming with killing intent and smugness. I devoured half of your soul with the longevity lamp. How could I not remember you? It's a pity that you managed to escape from the 6 paths of heaven. Su Fang looked at Yu Shui with pity in his eyes. Tu Xiu's voice came from the Dao Palace. Master, this mayfly race expert is called Yu Shui. He is an expert comparable to a half-step Daozu of the human race. He is also one of the 12 kings of the alien race that entered the human world. Master, you have just ascended and your realm is not stable yet. You can't fight with him. Tu Xiu clearly knew how powerful Yu Shui was and quickly reminded Su Fang. Su Fang replied, I know what to do. At this moment Yu Shui coldly shouted, If it weren't for the longevity lamp, how could a lowly life form like you have the right to talk to me? You have just ascended and your body is empty. If you force yourself to fight with me, you might cause your newly ascended realm to become unstable. Let's see how you can escape from my suppression this time. Su Fang smiled disdainfully and said, I just happen to lack an expert of your level. Why don't you submit to me? Not only can I use the longevity lamp to help you recover your soul, I can even help you become a Daozu in the future. Kakik, a lowly life form like you wants me to submit to you? It seems like you have just been reincarnated? You have been reborn and your mind is still not clear. After I kill you, the longevity lamp will naturally belong to me. Yu Shui sneered. Then, her huge body leaped and turned into nothingness. In an instant, she appeared less than 100 miles away from Su Fang. Monstrous flames surged out and instantly enveloped Su Fang and the surrounding void space. as expected of a half-step Daozu of the alien race. Just this terrifying will alone was enough to cause the will of an ordinary Tao saint to crumble. Yu Shui could do whatever she wanted to him. I have just become a Tao saint. I can use you to test my current strength. Su Fang's eyes surged with a strong desire to fight. With a thought, the 9 Dharma bodies in the Tao Palace formed hand seals at the same time. Boom! A domineering will exploded from Su Fang's body, shattering Yu Shui's monstrous flames layer by layer. Then, a terrifying divine aura that could dominate all directions surged out from his body. My master's 10 direction seal. My master's 10 direction seal had a total of 9 hand seals. Only an expert who had cultivated the Jiuxuan Tao Palace and had 9 Dharma bodies could use it. Although Su Fang had the Jiuxuan Tao Palace, he did not have 9 Dharma bodies in the past. Thus, he could only use his thoughts to replace them. However, at that time, the power of my master's 10 direction seal was already extremely shocking. Now that Su Fang had become a Tao saint and had 9 Dharma bodies, the power of my master's 10 direction seal was even more shocking. He sealed the heavens, earth, east, west, south, north, life, death, past, and future. He was the only one in the world. Yu Shui was instantly shackled in the world created by my master's 10 direction seal. His aura was suppressed, and his body was shackled. Everything was beyond his control. How can a Tao saint who has just become a Tao saint have such shocking power? Yu Shui was shocked and surprised. He waved his huge claws wildly, trying to tear apart the shackles in space to break out of Su Fang's world. At that moment, a blood-red light flashed from Su Fang's glabella. It instantly turned into a blood coffin. Whoosh! The coffin lid opened, revealing the dark interior to Yu Shui. Suddenly, a powerful force that sealed life, soul, strength, and fate energy burst out. The heavenly coffin was no longer a treasure. Instead, it had been cultivated into a Dharma body by Su Fang. Its power was more than 10 times stronger than before. It was even stronger than when Leader Heavenly Coffin used it. Shadows of the blood coffin instantly enveloped Yu Shui's body and seeped into his body. In addition to the power of my master's 10 direction seal, Yu Shui was completely shackled there. Yu Shui was also unlucky. When he was in the 6 paths of heaven, half of his soul had been swallowed by the longevity lamp, causing him to be greatly injured. In order to obtain the longevity lamp, he had excitedly followed Su Fang all the way to the chaos outside. He had thought that Su Fang was a weakling that he could easily capture. Who knew, previously, he had been defeated by Su Fang. Back then, he had used a burst of power and was severely injured. Right now, he could only use 30% of his power. In addition, he had never expected that Su Fang would be so powerful after becoming a Tao saint. Furthermore, he was in a weak state after just becoming a Tao saint. The power that he displayed was already so shocking. He was instantly shackled. Yu Shui, submit to me now, and I will spare your life. Su Fang shouted domineeringly. He displayed the unparalleled might of an unparalleled overlord. I did not expect that a human Tao saint who had just become a Tao saint would be so powerful. However, it is wishful thinking if you want to suppress me, let alone make me submit to you. Yu Shui was one of the top experts of the foreign races. How could he easily submit to a human cultivator? Just as Yu Shui was about to use Su Fang's my master's 10 direction seal and the blood coffin to suppress him, his physical body suddenly emitted a series of cracking sounds. Then, he exploded. The power of the explosion was extremely shocking. It carried with it a kind of great Tao that could destroy everything and a terrifying aura. It shattered the shackles of the blood coffin shadow and my master's 10 direction seal. Then, a black Xian Guang flashed and disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already in a spacetime that was separated by several spacetime barriers. The black light wriggled and transformed into Yu Shui once again. However, at this time, Yu Shui's aura was weak. His skin and face were pale. It was obvious that he had been greatly injured again. I was almost suppressed by a human Tao Saint who had just become a Tao Saint. Su Fang, just you wait. When I capture you, I will devour your flesh and soul bit by bit. Yu Shui's gaze pierced through spacetime and looked at Su Fang. He gritted his teeth. His heart was filled with shame and humiliation. Then, a black light surged from his body and he disappeared without a trace. He actually escaped. Su Fang was surprised. However, there was nothing to feel sorry about. After all, Yu Shui was a peerless expert who was half a step away from becoming a Daozu. It was really too difficult to capture him alive. Moreover, Su Fang's current situation was also very bad. He had just become a Tao Saint. His physical body, Tao Palace, and dermic powers were still empty and unstable. When he used my master's 10 directions seal and heavenly coffin body, Su Fang felt his Tao Palace showing signs of loosening. His cultivation also felt somewhat unstable. Master, you actually defeated Yu Shui and almost suppressed him. Tu Xiu's incredulous voice rang out from the Tao Palace. It's a pity that he still escaped. I originally planned to suppress him and make him my slave. This way, I would have a powerful expert under my command. Subdue Yu Shui? Master, you are really daring. You have just become a Tao Saint. You actually want to suppress an expert from the Mayfly race who is 2 levels higher than you. The greater one's ambition, the greater one's achievements. Didn't I subdue you when I was still a void Tao cultivator? That's true. Master is really too powerful. However, Yu Shui is different. The Mayfly race's innate ability is much more powerful than the Irontail race's. It is not surprising that he escaped. However, Master must be careful. Yu Shui has an extremely shocking ability. He can sense auras. As long as Master has been in a place before, he can sense it. No wonder he could still find me in the depths of the outer realm chaos. He escaped this time. Master, you have just become a Tao Saint. If he leads experts to hunt you down, it will be troublesome. That's right. Yu Shui is indeed troublesome. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. I have to find a place to recover quickly and consolidate my lower Tao Saint level. He thought for a moment. Su Fang's eyes suddenly lit up. How could I forget? I originally planned to visit Xuanxin in the Ice Soul Sacred Region after becoming a Tao Saint. This time I can go there and stay for a while. In addition, Su Fang had another purpose in coming to the Ice Soul Sacred Region. It was to release Saint Sovereign Xieju from the depths of the extreme chill maze. According to the deal between Su Fang and Holy Sovereign Xieju, he would release Holy Sovereign Xieju, and Holy Sovereign Xieju would serve him for 10 million years. Saint Sovereign Xieju was as powerful as Bodhi Daozu. How could he let such an expert go so easily? When I become a lower Tao Saint, I have nothing to be afraid of even if an ordinary Daozu comes, let alone Yu Shui. Su Fang became a Tao Saint. Not only did his strength increase, but his confidence also increased. He dared to fight an ordinary Daozu. However, Su Fang did not have much confidence in defeating the Daozu. After all, the Daozu was a peerless existence that was only 1 step away from the undying realm. It was completely different from a Tao Saint. Su Fang took out Fuyao Cavern and entered its internal space. Chapter 31-34. Su Fang began to activate the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine in the Fuyao Cavern, swallowing king-grade pills, life energy, and various spiritual items. He wanted to stabilize his realm as soon as possible and reach the normal state of lower Tao Saint. At the same time, Su Fang was also adapting to the huge changes in his various abilities after reaching a new height. Su Fang had reached Tao Saint from Tao Void Realm and experienced Nirvana Tribulation. 3 Fruits Tribulation. He had condensed 3 fruits and reached Tao Saint. The experience of other Tao Saints was not very useful to him. Therefore, not only did he need to stabilize his realm as soon as possible, but he also needed to familiarize himself with everything after reaching Tao Saint. About 1,000 years later, in a world of ice and snow, the boundless snow seemed to be never-ending. Countless ice cubes floated in the snow. In this space-time, other than snow, there was only ice. The aura was also extremely cold. Su Fong flew in the vast world of ice and snow. His entire body was covered in a layer of frost, but his expression was extremely calm and composed. He took a slow step forward and crossed an endless distance. In the Ice Soul Sanctuary, Fuyao Cavern was too big, so the shackles and resistance were even greater. Therefore, Su Fong could only teleport again and again. Although Su Fong's current strength was still far from Daozu's strength, the shackles of the Ice Soul Sanctuary and the various monsters hidden in the ice and snow could not pose any threat to him. A vast and boundless ice field was in sight. "I'm finally here," Su Fong smiled. Traversing through the vast expanse of white snow and ice was an incomparably boring task. In addition, Su Fong had just reached Dao Saint. Although his body was not so empty, he still had not reached the normal state of lower Dao Saint. He was a little tired along the way. A vast and boundless ice field appeared in Su Fong's sight. Thinking that he was about to see Xuanxin, Su Fong's heart burned, and the cold world suddenly became warm. Just as he was about to teleport toward the huge ice peak in the center of the ice plain, Su Fong suddenly raised his eyebrows, and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. Who would have thought that he would run into a familiar face as soon as he arrived at the Ice Wraith Saint Domain? Su Fong smiled and stood with his hands behind his back. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, a white Xian Guang flew over. It turned out to be a huge snow-white centipede with a dozen Ice Soul Holy Clan cultivators sitting cross-legged on its back. The cultivators on the snow centipedes also noticed the Su Fong and immediately stopped. Human cultivators? How dare a human cultivator step into the Ice Soul sacred region without permission? You're courting death. Suppress him. The cultivators of the Ice Soul Holy Clan roared angrily. The snow centipede also let out a ferocious roar as it spat out a white, chilly air. Humph! Su Fong snorted coldly. When the snow centipede sensed Su Fong's terrifying murderous aura, it trembled all over and let out a low roar of fear. Suddenly a woman's cry of surprise came. "It's you, Su Fong?" Then a beautiful figure flashed from the back of the snow centipede and appeared in front of Su Fong. It was the number 1 genius of the Ice Soul Holy Clan, Bing Pianxian. However, she was obviously no longer the number 1 genius of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. That was because her cultivation had broken through the limit of the profound path and reached the void path realm. In the Ice Soul Holy Clan, cultivators at the void path realm and above were no longer geniuses. They were qualified to be elders. Bing Pianxian's cultivation talent was extraordinary. After reaching the void path realm, her status would definitely be raised a lot. That human cultivator is Su Fong? The cultivators of the Ice Soul Holy Clan on the Snow Centipede were all shocked. The way they looked at Su Fong instantly changed and was filled with awe. Su Fong's record in the Frost Centipede sect was still unbroken. It shocked the entire Ice Soul Holy Clan. Everyone knew his name. Although the Ice Soul Holy Clan looked down on human cultivators like the other foreign clans, they had a natural respect for the strong. "Miss Bing, how have you been?" Su Fong smiled and cupped his fists at Bing Pianxian. "Brother Su, how have you been? Your cultivation is at the Saint Path realm." When Bing Pianxian saw Su Fong, a smile appeared on her frozen face. Then she found that Su Fong's cultivation had reached the Saint Path realm. Her expression changed instantly, and she let out a cry of disbelief. This was also because Su Fong had just advanced and his aura had leaked out, which was why Bing Pianxian had sensed it. Otherwise, with Bing Pianxian's cultivation at the lower level of the Dao Void realm, she would not have been able to detect Su Fong's cultivation. "I just reached the Void Path realm not long ago. It was just a fluke." Su Fong smiled faintly. Bing Pianxian's heart was filled with shock and bitterness and disappointment. She used to be the #1 genius of the Ice Soul Holy Clan, so she was quite proud of herself. However, compared to Su Fang, Bing Pianxian's talent and cultivation speed were not at the same level. Moreover, Su Fang was a human cultivator. This made her pride disappear, and she was filled with disappointment. Saint Path Realm? That human cultivator was only at the profound Path Realm when he was at the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Now, he has become a Saint Path Realm cultivator. The Ice Soul Holy Clan cultivators on the back of the snow centipede were all stunned. From now on, I need to call you Su Fang. Bing Pianxian cupped her fists and bowed to Su Fang. The Ice Soul Holy Clan cultivators also flew down from the back of the snow centipede and cupped their fists at Su Fang. I came to the Ice Soul Holy Clan this time to see Xuanxin. I wonder if Xuanxin is doing well? Su Fang asked impatiently. Xuanxin. You will know when you see her. Seeing Bing Pianxian's expression, Su Fang's heart suddenly sank. Did something happen? The pressure of a Saint Path Realm cultivator rolled out, making Bing Pianxian and the other Ice Soul Holy Clan cultivators tremble. Su Fang withdrew his aura and Bing Pianxian returned to normal. She could not help but feel a sense of awe in her heart. She hurriedly explained, Xuanxin is Ancestor Snow's disciple. I promised to take care of Xuanxin. How could anything happen to her in the Holy Snow Palace? However, she just encountered a little trouble recently. You will know when you see her. Su Fang calmed down a little, but he was not very relaxed. Obviously, the trouble Xuanxin encountered was not a small one. Otherwise, with Bing Pianxian's status, it was impossible that she could not solve it. He did not delay any longer and asked Bing Pianxian to take him to the Holy Snow Palace. Bing Pianxian was an elder of the Holy Snow Palace. This time, she was supposed to take people out to do something. But now, she could not care less. After exhorting the Ice Soul Holy Clan cultivators, she took Su Fang and flew to the holy mountain of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. They crossed the vast ice field and skimmed over the ice cities. In less than 10 days, Su Fang and Bing Pianxian arrived at the Holy Mountain and directly entered the Holy Snow Palace. The Holy Snow Palace was the dojo of Ancestor Snow, one of the 3 great daozu of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. In addition, the disciples of the Holy Snow Palace were all women. Men were forbidden to enter, not to mention that Su Fang was a human cultivator. However, with Bing Pianxian's status, no one questioned her when she brought Su Fang into the Holy Snow Palace. As soon as Su Fang entered the Holy Snow Palace, he sensed Xuanxin's life aura. Without Bing Pianxian's guidance, he flew to the palace where Xuanxin lived. When he arrived outside the palace, Su Fang sensed that in addition to Xuanxin, there were 3 other auras inside the palace. They should be the disciples of the Holy Snow Palace. Voices kept coming out of the palace. Xuanxin, senior sister, has already told you more than 10 times. If you continue to be stubborn, you won't have a good life in the Ice Soul Holy Clan in the future. Hearing the threatening voice, Su Fang raised his eyebrows and stopped. Elder Lung Lingfeng is not only a powerful elder of the Holy Spirit Palace, but also a descendant of the Daozu. He has outstanding talent and will definitely become a Daozu powerhouse in the future. Since he has taken a fancy to you, it's your good fortune. Instead, you repeatedly refuse. You really don't know how to appreciate favors. Although you are going to be Elder Lung Lingfeng's concubine, you have status and status. In the future, who won't flatter you in the Ice Soul Holy Clan? Are you still thinking about that human clan cultivator Su Fang? Humph, to tell you the truth, the human clan has been destroyed. Even Shi Xian's Daozu was killed by a powerhouse. How can your Taoist companion Su Fang survive? Hearing this, Su Fang finally figured out what the little troublemaker Bing Agile was talking about was. In an instant, flames of anger burned in his eyes, and he walked directly into the palace. The barrier of the palace was broken layer by layer by layer by Su Fang in a domineering way. He walked into the palace. Who dares to break into junior sister Xuanxin's palace? You are Su Fang. In the Ice Soul Palace, Xuanxin was sitting cross-legged on the ground with her eyes closed. 3 female disciples of the Holy Snow Palace were chattering beside her, trying to persuade Xuanxin. Su Fang broke the barrier and entered the palace, surprising the 3 disciples of the Holy Snow Palace. The moment they recognized Su Fang, the 3 disciples froze in place as if they were frozen in ice. Xuanxin suddenly opened her eyes and saw Su Fang. Her tired eyes suddenly shone brightly. "Get out of here, all of you!" Su Fang waved his hand and grabbed in the air. A divine power and will shackled the 3 female disciples, and then threw them out of the palace. "You are here." Xuanxin quickly calmed down and said lightly, as if Su Fang had just left for a few days and returned home. "You have suffered. I am here. No one can bully you again," Su Fang said in a lofty voice. Xuanxin's body trembled and tears appeared in her eyes. Holding Xuanxin in her arms, Xuanxin finally couldn't control herself, and tears rolled down her cheeks like broken beads. It turned out, after Su Fang left the Ice Soul Holy Clan, Xuanxin was taken care of by Bing Agile in the Holy Snow Palace. Coupled with her relationship with Daozu, the Snow Ancestor thought highly of her. Therefore, everything went smoothly for her in the Holy Snow Palace. Her cultivation had reached the lower level of the Daolord realm, and she started to make a name for herself in the Holy Snow Palace. This was all thanks to the Ice Heart Divine Jade that Su Fang left for Xuanxin and Bing Agile's guidance. Chapter 31-35. The news of the alien army attacking the human world, and the destruction of Shixian Mountain, had already reached the Ice Soul Holy Clan. However, it was all hearsay and there was no accurate information. Later, Xuanxin discovered that Ancestor Snow was gradually giving her the cold shoulder. Only then did she realize that the news of Shixian Daozu's death was not a rumor. Xuanxin worried about the safety of Su Fang and her other relatives every day. The change in Ancestor Snow's attitude towards Xuanxin was also noticed by the disciples of Sacred Snow Palace. Fortunately, with Bing Pianxian's care, no one dared to bully her. Until 100 years ago, when Xuanxin went out with other disciples of Sacred Snow Palace to gain experience, she met an elder of Sacred Snow Palace, Lung Lingfeng, who was mentioned by the disciples of Sacred Snow Palace. Elder Lung Lingfeng was cultivating a powerful divine ability and had encountered a bottleneck. He needed talented female cultivators as his cultivation tool. After seeing Xuanxin and learning about Xuanxin's origins, Lung Lingfeng had an idea. He wanted Xuanxin to become his concubine and help him break through the shackles of cultivation. Although Ancestor Snow no longer paid attention to Xuanxin like before, Xuanxin was her disciple after all, so she refused Lung Lingfeng's unreasonable request without hesitation. However, Lung Lingfeng did not give up. He often came to Sacred Snow Palace to harass and threaten Xuanxin. He even bribed the disciples of Sacred Snow Palace to persuade Xuanxin. Ancestor Snow was apprehensive of the Daozu powerhouse behind Lung Lingfeng, so she turned a blind eye to it as long as Lung Lingfeng did not go too far. With Lung Lingfeng's strength and status, it was difficult for Bing Pianxian to stop him. Since the Ice Soul Holy Clan has gone too far, there is no need for you to stay in Sacred Snow Palace and be bullied. This time, you will leave with me. Su Fang's heart was filled with a fierce aura. At the same time, she also felt sorry for Xuanxin. She had never thought that the death of Shixian Daozu would bring Xuanxin such a situation. However, Xuanxin said firmly, "The Ice Soul Holy Clan is the only place where I can become strong. I won't leave." Su Fang understood that Xuanxin had her own pride and didn't want to widen the gap between them. Furthermore, Holy Snow Palace was a suitable place for her to cultivate. After pondering for a while, Su Fang nodded and said, "I can continue to stay in Holy Snow Palace, but I want to pay a visit to Ancestor Snow." With Su Fang's current strength and ability, he was fully qualified to talk to a Daozu powerhouse like Ancestor Shui. Besides, he had a way to make progenitor Snow protect Xuanxin. Even if he wasn't there, Xuanxin wouldn't be bullied in the Ice Soul Saint domain. Suddenly Su Fang's eyebrows were raised like swords. His eyes under his eyebrows seemed to be frozen in an instant, with traces of coldness in their depths. A cold and domineering voice came from outside the palace. Xuanxin, you bitch. I gave you the opportunity to cultivate, but you refused to accept it. Now you dare to lead a man from another race into Holy Snow Palace without permission. You deserve to die. The voice rushed into the palace. A powerful will and icy aura that only an expert in the middle stage of Dao Saint could possess rolled in from outside, trying to freeze Su Fang and Xuanxin. Xuanxin trembled and said in horror, "It's that Lungling Feng. I'm here. Don't be afraid." Su Fang let out a snort of laughter. With a thought, a crimson profound light burst out from between his eyebrows, and a strand of profound yang aura and will swept out, incinerating the cold energy completely. Su Fang, your cultivation. Xuanxin looked at Su Fang in disbelief. Shock appeared in his eyes. Let's go. See how I'll vent your anger for you. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. He took Xuanxin's hand and strode out of the palace. Outside the palace, a white-robed man stood in the air with his hands behind his back. Like the other cultivators of the Ice Soul Divine clan, this man's skin was crystal clear. His body seemed to be made of ice and snow. He was handsome. The man looked to be in his 20s. His eyes were cold and sharp. His eyebrows were like swords. He gave off a feeling of superiority and arrogance. This man's aura was extremely powerful. He had reached the middle stage of Dao Saint. Judging from his aura, this man was at least as powerful as a human expert in the upper stage of Dao Saint. The three disciples of Holy Snow Palace followed behind Lungling Feng. Obviously, they were the ones who had informed Lungling Feng. Dao Saint. Seeing Su Fang and Xuanxin walking out hand in hand, Lungling Feng's eyes shone with a sharp and cold light. When he sensed Su Fang's aura, the divine light in his eyes suddenly changed. Human cultivator, no wonder you dare to enter Holy Snow Palace without permission. Turns out that you have the strength of a Dao Saint. However, no matter how strong you are, breaking the rules of Holy Snow Palace is a capital offense. Lungling Feng looked down at Su Fang condescendingly and said in a cold and embarrassed voice. Bing Agile arrived in a flash. She cupped her fists at Lungling Feng and said, Elder Lungling Feng, it was I who led Su Fang into Holy Snow Palace. It has nothing to do with him. You can't escape punishment for bringing an outsider into the sacred mountain without permission. Lungling Feng shouted domineeringly. A cold light shot out from his eyes. It swept towards Bing Agile like a cold wave. Whoosh! Su Fang used a Xianyang aura to incinerate Lungling Feng's cold wave. Subsequently, Su Fang took a step forward, and his entire aura instantly changed greatly. His entire body emanated an extremely dense and fierce aura of slaughter and ferocity. Su Fang? After becoming a saint, he had condensed 3 fruit. Now that Xuanxin was humiliated, the evil karma deep in his body was aroused. When he attacked, his evil side naturally erupted. Just a mere lower Dao Saint, Lungling Feng was disdainful at first. But when he sensed Su Fang's terrifying attack, his divine aura changed instantly. Su Fang, stop! Bing Agile let out a cry of alarm and tried to stop Su Fang. She didn't expect that Su Fang would dare to attack Lungling Feng. This was the Ice Soul Sacred Clan. Su Fang was an outsider who had just become a Dao Saint. His aura was unstable, and Lungling Feng was a powerful Dao Saint. At this moment, he actually took the initiative to attack Lungling Feng. Wasn't he asking to be humiliated? Xuanxin was also not surprised. However, she was just a little surprised. She had blind confidence in Su Fang's strength. The 3 female disciples of Holy Snow Palace sneered. They were sure that Su Fang would be in big trouble. Boom! Su Fang's murderous aura attacked Lung Lingfeng's Dao heart and seeped into it. In an instant, Lung Lingfeng felt as if he was facing an evil-killing god who had surpassed the Dao Saint level. His willpower collapsed instantly. His Dao heart and soul trembled in fear under the endless murderous aura. After losing his willpower, no matter how powerful his cultivation was, he couldn't use it. Lung Lingfeng staggered and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Su Fang had the blood fiend Dharma body. His murderous aura was already very strong. In addition to the Dao Saints he had personally killed, there were no less than 50 of them. He had killed countless foreign races. The evil karma gathered an extremely shocking amount of murderous aura. At this moment, just the murderous aura released was enough to make Lung Lingfeng, a powerful Dao Saint, unable to withstand it. Lung Lingfeng didn't take Su Fang seriously at all. He didn't expect that Su Fang would dare to attack him in Holy Snow Palace. Caught off guard, he was defeated by Su Fang's willpower. Su Fang wasn't an unforgiving person, but Lung Lingfeng dared to humiliate Xuanxin. This was tantamount to touching Su Fang's reverse scale. In addition, Su Fang was dominated by the evil karma. His consciousness had become evil and bloodthirsty. How could he let Lung Lingfeng off so easily? "You just said that you want to sentence me to death? With a piece of trash like you?" Su Fang looked down at Lung Lingfeng on the ground and said in a cold voice filled with murderous intent. The cultivators of the Ice Soul Holy Clan didn't know what it was like to be cold. However, at this moment, Lung Lingfeng felt as if he was in an extremely cold maze. His entire body was shivering. Trash? Elder Lung Lingfeng, an expert in the middle level of Dao Saint, was actually called trash by a human cultivator? Su Fang's words made Lung Lingfeng, a powerful elder of noble status, feel endless humiliation. Bing Pianxian and the 3 disciples of Holy Snow Palace were completely turned into ice sculptures. Lung Lingfeng, a powerful elder and an expert in the middle level of Dao Saint, couldn't even withstand a single blow from Su Fang. One could imagine the shock in their hearts. Xuanxin also covered her mouth. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. "You want to use Su Fang's Taoist companion as your cultivation tool? Death." Su Fang stared at Lung Lingfeng. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Qi. A blood vine shot out from Su Fang's right palm and fell on Lung Lingfeng. It quickly penetrated Lung Lingfeng's body and began to madly devour his blood qi and energy. Lung Lingfeng's aura withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. His body also quickly dried up. Enough! A cold shout was heard. Daozu's powerful will suddenly descended. Su Fang's body swayed. He immediately stabilized his body in the air. His evil will instantly returned to normal. He immediately withdrew the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. Only Ancestor Shui could have such a powerful will in Holy Snow Palace. Since Ancestor Shui had personally appeared, Su Fang naturally had to give Ancestor Shui face and spare Lung Lingfeng this time. A cry of surprise came from the void. Then, a snow-white divine light flashed and transformed into a young woman in a snow-white robe. The woman was only 18 years old. Her face was covered with snowflake patterns. Her aura was empty, cold, and mysterious. She was a Daozu expert. Her aura was no different from Daozu's. The woman stared at Su Fang. Her eyes were filled with surprise. Just now, she had used her will to stop Su Fang. His body only swayed a little. It was clear how powerful his will was. This surprised the woman. "Ancestor Shui, please help this disciple." Lung Lingfeng struggled to stand up from the ground. After being attacked by Su Fang's will, Lung Lingfeng's will had collapsed. 1/5 of his life and cultivation had been consumed by the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. He was greatly injured and no longer had the domineering and sharp aura from before. "Su Fang, your master, Shi Xian Daozu, has a good relationship with this ancestor. Yet you entered Holy Snow Palace without permission and injured this ancestor's clansman. How can this ancestor forgive you? Ancestor Shui said in a cold and dignified voice. When Shi Xian Daozu was still alive, Ancestor Shui naturally had to give some face to Su Fang. Now that Shi Xian Daozu was dead, even the good relationship had turned to nothing. Ancestor Shui naturally would not give any face to Su Fang. Master, please spare Su Fang. Chapter 31-36. Su Fang used his power to lift Xuanxin and Bing Agile up from the ground. Then he smiled embarrassedly and said to Ancestor Snow, I came to Holy Snow Palace this time to see Xuanxin and bring a gift to Ancestor Snow. I didn't come here without permission. Su Fang was still calm in front of a Daozu powerhouse, as if he was facing a cultivator of the same level. Xuanxin and Bing Agile were shocked and anxious. They were afraid that Su Fang would anger Ancestor Snow. How can a lowly human cultivator be so rude in front of Ancestor Snow? Bing Lingfeng finally regained some courage and shouted at Su Fang. Su Fang's cold eyes swept over Lung Lingfeng. Lung Lingfeng trembled. A fear rose from the bottom of his heart again. He didn't dare to make a sound. Ancestor Snow's figure said coldly, What kind of existence am I? Why would I need your gift? Su Fang waved his hand and sent a jade slip to Ancestor Snow. Ancestor Snow, take a look at it. It won't be too late to make a decision. Ancestor Snow smiled indifferently with disdain. She put the jade slip into the figure. When she read the information in the jade slip, Ancestor Shui was stunned. Soon after, shock appeared in her eyes. In the end, it turned into surprise and joy. This is... Su Fang transmitted his spiritual thought. Yes, this mirage is the result of a Daozu powerhouse who failed to break through to the immortal realm. How did you get such a precious mirage? Ancestor Snow still found it hard to believe. Su Fang replied, Ancestor Snow, don't worry about the origin of this mirage. My master, Shi Xian Daozu, used this mirage to take the legendary step and become an immortal realm powerhouse. Of course, he wanted to tell her that Shi Xian Daozu had reached the immortal realm. On one hand, he wanted Ancestor Snow to know how powerful this mirage was and how valuable it was. On the other hand, he wanted to make Ancestor Snow fearful. The legendary undying existences were the pinnacle of any race. With Su Fang having such a teacher, even the Ice Soul Holy Clan couldn't help but be wary of him. Ancestor Snow was shocked again. Fellow Taoist Shi Xian didn't die but became immortal? Everything she knew about the foreign races invading the human race came from the foreign races. Naturally, the foreign races wouldn't tell anyone about their failure at Western Profound Mountain, much less the fact that Western Profound Daozu had sealed away the divine masters of 10 directions. Su Fang continued, If my teacher had fallen, how could the non-humankind have retreated? How could I possibly survive? It seems that the information the Ice Soul Holy Clan received was wrong. I didn't expect fellow Taoist Shi Xian to have already taken that step. Ancestor Snow sighed with emotion. At the same time, her eyes lit up. This mirage might be useful to my master, but it might not be useful to Lord Ancestor Snow. I have to warn you. How could I not know this? As long as I can comprehend something from it, it will be a great fortune. Tell me, what do you want from me by taking out such a precious treasure? Lord Ancestor Snow is the teacher of my Tao partner. It's normal for me to give you a gift. Why would I ask for anything else? I only hope that Lord Ancestor Snow can treat Xuanxin well in Holy Snow Palace. Don't let her suffer any grievances. I understand. I can promise you that from now on, Xuanxin is in Holy Snow Palace. I will train her with all my heart. Anyone who dares to humiliate her will be my mortal enemy. Ancestor Snow's voice was resolute and decisive. At Daozu's level, what could be more important than taking that legendary step? Su Fang's mirage might not be able to help Ancestor Snow become immortal, but it was still an opportunity. Even if it was just a slim chance, she would fight for it at all costs. What's more, Su Fang's condition was as easy as lifting a finger for Ancestor Snow. How could she not agree? Su Fang was relieved after getting Ancestor Snow's promise. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Ancestor Snow." Ancestor Snow was so straightforward not only because of the time mirage, but also because of Shi Xiandaozu. There was another reason. When Su Fang came to Ice Soul Sacred Region last time, he was only at Dao Profound Realm. Now, he had become a Dao Saint and even surpassed his level. With such amazing talent, he would definitely be a powerful Daozu in the future. Now, she had to do Su Fang a favor. Ancestor Snow looked at Lung Lingfeng and said indifferently, "Lung Lingfeng, as an elder of Holy Snow Palace, you dare to humiliate my disciple in Holy Snow Palace. What do you think of me?" "Lord Ancestor Snow, I am an elder of Holy Snow Palace, and he is a human cultivator." Lung Lingfeng was already seriously injured. Under Ancestor Snow's pressure, he trembled and immediately knelt on the ground. "For the sake of Senior Brother Holy Snow Palace, I will spare you this time. From now on, you are not allowed to take half a step into Holy Snow Palace. Otherwise, I will destroy your cultivation path. Get lost." Ancestor Snow flicked her sleeve. Snowflakes danced and swept Lung Lingfeng away. Then, Ancestor Snow looked at the 3 disciples of Holy Snow Palace and said majestically, "You 3 are disciples of Holy Snow Palace, but you bullied your junior sister with an outsider. Do you know your crime?" The 3 disciples did not expect things to turn around like this. They all turned pale and hurriedly knelt to Ancestor Snow. "Master, please spare our lives. Destroy your own cultivation and leave Holy Snow Palace." Ancestor Snow's punishment made the 3 disciples collapse on the ground. "Xuanxin, you have a good Dao companion. This is your fortune." Ancestor Snow nodded at Xuanxin. The phantom formed by her thoughts immediately turned into nothingness and disappeared without a trace. "Su Fang, I didn't expect you to solve such a big problem so easily." Bing Agile looked at Su Fang. There was still shock in her eyes. The fact that Su Fang had become a Dao Saint had already surprised and shocked Bing Pianxian. Then, Su Fang easily crushed an expert in the middle realm of Dao Saint. He even talked to a Daozu expert like Ancestor Snow as an equal. He easily resolved her anger. Bing Agile also realized that Su Fang was now at a height that she had to look up to. "Xuanxin has been in Holy Snow Palace all these years. I have troubled you. Please take care of him in the future." Su Fang took out 10 king-grade elixirs and gave them to Bing Agile. Once again, Bing Pianxian was surprised and pleasantly surprised by such a generous offer. After sending Bing Agile off, Su Fang and Xuanxin returned to the palace. After that, Su Fang stayed in Xuanxin's palace. While being affectionate, the 2 of them also cultivated yin and yang. In fact, Su Fang helped Xuanxin to improve. When yin and yang merged, Su Fang merged Xuanxin's aura with his primordial energy. Then, he circulated it into Xuanxin's Dao Palace. In this way, the benefits that Xian Xin obtained were no small matter. In less than 1,000 years of time, Xian Xin had smoothly advanced a level and become an intermediate rank Dao Lord. After Xuanxin advanced, he began to cultivate in seclusion. Su Fang also began to concentrate on cultivation. He constantly devoured elixirs and life energy, striving to reach the lower realm of Dao Saint as soon as possible. At the same time, he was adapting to various abilities. Su Fang constantly pondered, comprehended, and communicated with the longevity lamp. Finally, he gained some experience. My blood fiend body, heavenly coffin body, sky-piercing blood king vine, and fortune spider all belong to the evil side. If combined with evil karma, these bodies and abilities will multiply. As for my good karma, it can be used with the heavenly Dao, Xianyang, and Xianwang bodies. The heavenly mandate, violet fate, longevity, and nascent spirit bodies can be used with good karma. With these 3 karma, my strength will increase tenfold. However, my cultivation will also become more difficult. My Tao Saint realm is different from other Tao Saints. Apart from constantly improving my cultivation, I also need to cultivate the 3 karma of evil karma, good karma, and good karma. How did one cultivate the 3 karma, reach the Tao immortal realm, and obtain the qualifications to become immortal? Since he didn't know much about the longevity lamp, Su Fang could only figure it out on his own and comprehend it from the Jiuxuan's limitless scripture. Su Fang also had an extremely bold conjecture. The reason the Divine Lord of 10 Directions had behaved so differently was because there were 3 different Divine Lords of 10 Directions. To be more precise, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions had cultivated the Jiuxuan's limitless scripture and formed the 3 karma, displaying 3 completely different personalities and styles. Su Fang was now almost certain that the Divine Lord of 10 Directions who'd led the alien army to attack the human world was the Divine Lord of 10 Directions who'd been dominated by evil karma. The truth will be revealed when we reach the ruins of God. Su Fang was even more eager to go to the ruins of God. He'd been cultivating in Xuanxin Palace for around 30,000 years. Su Fang had swallowed countless king-grade pills and various spirit items to finally reach the normal level of a lower Tao Saint. It's time to go to the deepest part of the labyrinth of extreme frost and release Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu. Su Fang finished his cultivation and prepared to make a trip there. Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu was a half-step Daozu expert of the alien race who possessed an undying body and was powerful enough to fight against the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. With a powerful expert like Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu by his side, even if he encountered an ordinary Daozu expert, Su Fang wouldn't be afraid. Unexpectedly, Su Fang had just made his decision when Ancestor Snow sent a thought to the palace, telling Su Fang to quickly head to the main hall of Sacred Snow Palace. For some reason, Su Fang was led to the main hall of Sacred Snow Palace by an elder of Sacred Snow Palace. To Su Fang's surprise, besides Ancestor Snow, there was also an elder of the Ice Soul Sacred Clan in the main hall, who was also a Daozu expert. There was also an upper Tao Saint expert of the alien race in the palace, but he wasn't from the Ice Soul Sacred Clan. Instead, he was from the Mayfly race. Su Fang realized that something was wrong when a Tao Saint expert of the Mayfly race appeared in the Ice Soul Sacred Clan. Trouble was coming, and it wasn't just any trouble, it was big trouble. As expected, as soon as Su Fang entered the palace, the Daozu of the Ice Soul Sacred Clan looked at him coldly. "You're the one who injured Lung Lingfeng?" A powerful intent that could seal one's Tao heart and soul instantly enveloped Su Fang. "So what if I am?" Chapter 31-37. The elder of the Ice Soul Saint Clan had wanted to show his strength to Su Fang, but he hadn't expected Su Fang, a lower Saint Realm cultivator, to be able to resist the powerful will of a Tao ancestor. The elder's eyes flashed with cold light, and he was about to continue attacking Su Fang when Ancestor Snow said coldly, "Senior brother Xing Ling, this is Holy Snow Palace, and this boy is my guest, as well as my disciple's Taoist companion." It turned out that the elder was one of the 3 Daozu masters of the Ice Soul Saint Clan, Xing Ling Daozu. Humph! Tao ancestor Xing Ling let out a cold, embarrassed snort. Then he said majestically, "Don't forget, Xing Ling, it was the ultimate master who personally ordered that this human be handed over to the Mayfly race. Do you dare to defy the will of the ultimate master?" The ultimate master of the Ice Soul Saint Clan was the undying being who surpassed the Daozu. He was the supreme being of the Ice Soul Saint Clan, and no one dared to defy his will. Ancestor Snow said bluntly, "Senior brother Xing Ling, the ultimate master wants Su Fang to leave the Ice Soul Saint Clan, but he didn't say to hand him over to the Mayfly race, nor did he ask you to shackle him. Senior brother Xing Ling, aren't you defying the ultimate master's decree by doing this?" "What's the difference?" Xing Ling Daozu sneered. "As long as he leaves the Ice Soul Saint Clan, he will fall into the hands of the Mayfly race without our protection. Rather than that, it's better to suppress him and hand him over to the Mayfly race. This way, our clan can even gain a favor from the Mayfly race. Ancestor Snow retorted, Senior brother Xingling, you want to take revenge, don't you? I don't dare to defy the will of the ultimate master, but I won't agree to anyone who dares to capture Su Fong in the Ice Soul Saint clan. Su Fong now understood. It turned out that the alien race had come to pressure the Ice Soul Saint clan to hand over Su Fong. Although the Ice Soul Holy clan had immortal realm warriors, they didn't have many members, so they weren't considered powerful among the other races. Moreover, the Ice Soul Holy clan didn't want to offend the powerful Mayfly race because of Su Fong. Therefore, they planned to kick Su Fong out of the Ice Soul Holy clan and do the Mayfly race a favor. Ancestor Snow secretly transmitted his voice to Su Fong. Su Fong, it's not that I don't want to save you, but the supreme expert of my clan has personally given the order. There's nothing I can do. Su Fong replied, Which powerful beings from the Mayfly race have come? The one from the Mayfly race, who came to the Ice Soul Holy clan, is the Dao Saint realm expert called Qian Tong. However, according to my secret senses, there are many experts lying in ambush outside the Ice Soul sacred region. Among them is the half-step Daozu Yu Shui of the alien race and 3 Dao Saints of the Mayfly race. Su Fong sneered in his heart. It really is Yu Shui. I didn't expect him to not give up and chase all the way to the Ice Soul Holy clan. Other than the Mayfly race's experts, I also sensed a powerful life form. If I'm not wrong, it should be the Heaven-Piercing Blood King Vine race's expert, Shui Man Heaven-Piercing Blood King Vine? Su Fong wasn't surprised. He didn't expect that the Heaven-Piercing Blood King Vine's mother body, which had disappeared for a long time, would follow Yu Shui to the Ice Soul Holy clan. This was troublesome. The Heaven-Piercing Blood King Vine's mother body was also unlucky. When it entered the heaven-forsaken desolate region, it was attacked by the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws, and Su Fong self-detonated his 6 extreme Dao Saint true body to destroy the profound gate, causing it to be severely injured. After that, the Heaven-Piercing Blood King Vine's mother body stole Slayer's heart in the Blood Valley. In the end, it encountered Su Fong again, and again it was unlucky. However, the Heaven-Piercing Blood King Vine was still a top life form among the alien races. Since the mother body dared to come to the Ice Soul Holy clan at this time, and even Ancestor Snow was a little wary of it, it was obvious that it had mostly recovered after all these years. Moreover, Yu Shui Man clearly knew that Su Fong had the longevity lamp and was extremely powerful, but he still chased after the Ice Soul Holy clan. It was obvious that he had a way to deal with it, and this time, he came prepared. The Mayfly race Dao Saint called Qian Tong looked at Su Fong with disdain and said domineeringly, Human cultivator, will you obediently come with me, or will I suppress you after you get out of the Ice Soul Holy clan? Suppress Su Fong? Su Fong showed the loftiness of an overlord and sneered disdainfully. Then, he looked at Qian Tong with disdain. In the Battle of Western Black Mountain, more than 30 alien race Dao Saints died at my hands, and more than 10 Daozu were injured by me. Not long ago, even Yu Shui almost died at my hand. Who do you think you are that you dare to speak such arrogant words in front of Su Fong? Qian Tong's divine light changed instantly. Ancestor Snow and Xing Ling Daozu also looked at Su Fong in disbelief. Killing more than 30 Dao Saints and injuring more than 10 Daozu, what kind of strength was this? Even the 2 Daozu could not do this. Looking at Qian Tong's expression, Su Fong was clearly not boasting. How could Ancestor Snow and Xing Ling Daozu not be shocked? Humph, if not for, Qian Tong said disdainfully, but then realized that he had said too much and quickly stopped. The Mayfly race had come for Su Fong's longevity lamp. If the Ice Soul Holy clan knew that Su Fong had such a peerless treasure, the Mayfly race would not have a share in it. Xing Ling Daozu completely withdrew his contempt for Su Fong, and at the same time dismissed the idea of suppressing Su Fong. He said indifferently, human cultivator, the Ice Soul Holy Clan doesn't want to do anything to you, but we don't want to get into trouble. You'd better leave the Ice Soul Holy Clan on your own. There's no need for the Ice Soul Holy Clan to chase me away. I will definitely leave the Ice Soul Holy Clan within 10 years. Su Fang said coldly, and then walked out of the main hall of the Sacred Snow Palace. He returned to Xuanxin's palace. He told Xuanxin that he was going to leave. In order not to worry Xuanxin, Su Fang did not tell Xuanxin that the Mayfly race had chased him to the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Xuanxin was so smart that he realized something when he saw Su Fang leaving in a hurry. He immediately said, "I'll go ask Master to let you stay in the Ice Soul Holy Clan." Su Fang shook his head and said with a smile, "It's okay. It's just a little trouble. It won't trouble me, Su Fang. You can cultivate in peace in the Sacred Snow Palace. When the crisis of the human race is resolved, I'll come back to the Ice Soul Holy Clan to pick you up." Su Fang, take care. Xuanxin hugged Su Fang tightly, full of reluctance. 3 years later, Su Fang walked out of Xuanxin's palace. Bing Pianxian was waiting for Su Fang outside the palace. "Su Fang, I'll send you out of the Ice Soul Holy Clan." Su Fang cupped his fists and said, "Thank you." Bing Pianxian looked at Su Fang, and Ancestor Snow's divine sense suddenly transmitted, "Su Fang, one of my Dharmakayas is hidden in Bing Pianxian's body. When you leave the Ice Soul Holy Clan, I'll do my best to help you escape." Su Fang was not surprised and immediately replied, "Thank you, Ancestor Snow. When I need your help, Su Fang will definitely ask." Bing Pianxian flew out of the Sacred Snow Palace with Su Fang and left the Ice Soul Holy Clan's St. Peak. Unexpectedly, just as they left the St. Peak, 2 figures broke through the sky and arrived. One of them was a Mayfly race expert, Qian Tong. The other was a Tao saint of the Ice Soul Holy Clan, Lung Lingfeng, a powerful elder of the Sacred Celestial Palace. What Su Fang did not expect was that after tens of thousands of years, Lung Lingfeng had recovered more than half. As expected of a powerful elder of the Sacred Celestial Palace and a descendant of the Sacred Celestial Daozu, he had a treasure or other powerful means to recover quickly. Otherwise, Lung Lingfeng would not be able to recover to his current state without millions of years. "Su Fang, you didn't expect this, did you? You were so arrogant in front of me in the Sacred Snow Palace. You didn't expect this day, did you?" Lung Lingfeng looked at Su Fang with eyes full of resentment, and his tone was full of schadenfreude. Su Fang said indifferently, "What, have you forgotten the pain now that the scar has healed? Do you want me to leave you some souvenirs before I leave?" Lung Lingfeng's deep eyes oozed fear and hatred. "Su Fang, you are just a stray dog of the human race, yet you are still so arrogant. This time, this king will see with his own eyes how you die in the hands of a Mayfly race expert." Qian Tong sneered and said, "Elderling, why are you angry with a dead man? Before my clan's experts kill him, I will give Elderling a chance to vent your anger." "Thank you, Lord Qian Tong." Lung Lingfeng thanked Qian Tong and looked at Su Fang with complacency, as if he was looking at a dead man. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and flew into the depths of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Lung Lingfeng shouted, "Su Fang, where do you think you are running to? Run?" Su Fang laughed involuntarily. "I just want to go to the Extreme Chill Labyrinth to get some Ice Heart Jade for Xuanxin. If you are worried, you can follow me." Lung Lingfeng snorted, "Looking for Ice Heart Jade? This king thinks you want to take the opportunity to escape. Humph, there is no place for you to hide in the Ice Soul Holy Clan. I promised Lord Ancestor Snow and Xing Ling Daozu that I would leave the Ice Soul Holy Clan within 10 years. Now that the 10 years are not up yet, I can go wherever I want. Who do you think you are, Lung Lingfeng, to restrict my freedom? If you dare to be rude again, don't blame me for being ruthless." Su Fang said domineeringly and teleported away. Lung Lingfeng didn't dare to speak again, but followed Su Fang. Qian Tong and Bing Pianxian didn't understand Su Fang's intention and followed Su Fang into the depths of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Su Fang soon arrived at the entrance of the extreme chill labyrinth. Bing Pianxian, Lung Lingfeng, and Qian Tong followed. Su Fang didn't pay any attention to them and entered the ice cave. Qian Tong asked Lung Lingfeng, "Elderling, what kind of place is the extreme chill labyrinth in the Ice Soul Holy Clan?" Lung Lingfeng told Qian Tong everything about the extreme chill labyrinth. Then he said in confusion, "When cultivators above Dao Profound enter the extreme chill labyrinth, they will trigger the ice demon sound. Other than Daozu, even Dao Saints will have a slim chance of survival. Could it be that Su Fang knows he can't escape death, so he wants to die in the extreme chill labyrinth?" Qian Tong shook his head and said, "Elderling, you still don't know how powerful this person is. Why would he seek death so easily? He must have an ulterior motive for entering the extreme chill labyrinth. This king must follow him." Lung Lingfeng said, "Lord Qian Tong, be careful. The extreme chill labyrinth is extremely dangerous. If Su Fang dares to enter, what is this king afraid of?" Qian Tong smiled embarrassedly and followed Su Fang into the extreme chill labyrinth without hesitation. "This king will accompany my lord." Lung Lingfeng also followed in a flash. Chapter 31-38. Su Fang followed the crisscrossing ice tunnels and flew toward the deepest part of the extreme frost maze. The last time Su Fang entered the extreme frost maze with Bing Pianxian, he was only at the Dao Profound realm and had to swallow a supreme-grade ice soul freezing soul elixir before daring to enter. He was very careful along the way, as if he was treading on thin ice. Now that Su Fang was a Dao Saint, he did not fear the shocking cold shackles and did not need to take any elixirs. Not long after, Su Fang sensed Lung Lingfeng and Qian Tong's auras following behind him. "You are courting death." Su Fang's heart surged with a fierce aura as he released his aura. In less than 10 breaths, rumble! A faintly discernible sound came from the depths of the tunnel, as if a tide was rolling in from the depths of the extreme frost maze. In an instant, the tide-like sound approached from afar and suddenly became as shocking as a raging wave. The demonic sound of the cold wave surged over and enveloped Su Fang. The cold wave was extremely shocking. Even with Su Fang's current cultivation, he did not dare to be careless. He released a stream of primordial qi in advance to form a protective divine aura around him. Then, the cold wave swept Su Fang into the depths of the extreme frost maze. Su Fang had the protection of the primordial qi and knew that the cold wave was controlled by Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu. Thus, he was fearless and went with the flow, allowing the cold wave to sweep him into the depths of the extreme frost maze. The mayfly race expert, Qian Tong, sensed the sound of the cold wave and was stunned at first. "What is that? Cold wave demonic ice sound. Why did the cold wave demonic ice sound erupt the moment we entered the extreme frost maze?" Lung Lingfeng turned pale with fright. He hurriedly took out a rune talisman, crushed it, and teleported out of the extreme frost maze. Qian Tong's reaction was slightly slower. In addition, he did not quite believe that the extreme frost maze was as powerful as Lung Lingfeng said, so he looked down on it. When the cold wave swept over Qian Tong, he started to panic, but it was already too late. The cold wave's shackles were extremely shocking and seeped into Qian Tong's body, causing his heaven-defying abilities to be completely frozen and shackled. His defenses started to shatter, and his body was also frozen. Like a leaf floating in the flood, he was swept into the depths of the extreme frost maze. Su Fang was swept into the eye of the storm deep within the extreme frost maze by the cold wave, and then fell into the spacetime at the center of the eye of the storm. Even though he had the protection of the primordial energy, Su Fang was still shackled by the cold wave, and he was forcefully smashed onto the extremely hard ground, causing his entire body to almost fall apart. Saint Master Xie Zhu's figure appeared in a space that was split open from the surrounding cold currents. I. Evil flames burned in Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu's eyes as he spoke in disbelief. If I didn't have full confidence, why would I come back here? If you go back on your word, wouldn't I be sending meat to the tiger's mouth? Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. If I want to leave this damn place, I still need your help. Why would I go back on my word? Only despicable humans like you would go back on your words. Xie Zhu snorted. Clearly, he still hated the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. I, Su Fang, am not someone who goes back on my word. I promised to save you, so I will do it. I'm not afraid of you going back on your word. Su Fang smiled domineeringly and confidently. With his current strength, he was indeed not afraid of Xie Zhu going back on his word. Just as he was about to enter the space inside the cold wave and release Xie Zhu from the chaotic locked god chain, a figure was suddenly thrown out of the eye of the storm and landed heavily on the ground. It was Qian Tong, the mayfly race expert. His entire body was covered in wounds from the shredding force of the cold wave. His horned divine armor had become tattered. At the same time, he was also affected by the ice devil voice in the cold wave. His will had collapsed, and he was unconscious. A mayfly race Dao Saint expert? Xie Zhu was surprised at first. Then, greedy flames surged in his eyes. He was about to swallow him to recover his strength. Su Fang hurriedly stopped him. I still need this mayfly race expert. Once I release you, I will help you recover quickly. Xie Zhu needed Su Fang's help. Although he was unwilling, he had to listen to Su Fang. Su Fang took advantage of Qian Tong's unconscious state to use the life-shrinking technique, the supreme life-pulling karma line, to shackle his fate. Then, he entered the space inside the cold wave. Grabbing the chaotic locked god chain that was shackling Xie Zhu, a pure and majestic primordial qi surged out of his palm. Sensing the terror of Su Fang's primordial qi, Xie Zhu was shocked again. While Su Fang was helping Xie Zhu break free, Lung Lingfeng used a teleportation talisman to escape the cold wave and appeared outside the extreme chill maze. Bing Agile was surprised and asked, "What happened in the extreme chill maze? Why did Elder Ling come out alone?" Lung Lingfeng's eyes were filled with fear and trepidation. Cold wave devil ice sound. The cold wave devil ice sound suddenly erupted in the extreme chill maze. That human cultivator and the mayfly race expert were both swallowed by the cold wave devil ice sound. If I didn't have a powerful teleportation talisman, I reckon I wouldn't have been able to escape death. Su Fang and Qian Tong were swallowed by the ice demon sound? Bing Agile's divine light changed instantly. Hidden in Bing Agile's Dao Palace, Ancestor Snow's Dharma body was about to enter the extreme chill maze to save Su Fang. Bing Agile suddenly transmitted a thought to Ancestor Snow. "Master, wait! What is it? In order to search for the Ice Heart Divine Jade, I once entered the extreme frost maze with Su Fang. Coincidentally, the demonic frost sound of the frost wave erupted there. What was strange was that after Su Fang was swallowed by the demonic frost sound of the frost wave, he came out unscathed. I suspect that he has the ability to survive the ice demon sound." "You're saying that Su Fang intentionally lured Qian Tong and Lung Lingfeng into the extreme chill maze, then controlled the ice demon sound to kill them?" Even Ancestor Snow was shocked and surprised. "I only have some suspicions, but I dare not say for sure." "Fine. Then let's wait outside for a few days. If Su Fang still doesn't come out, I'll have no choice but to enter the extreme chill maze." About 3 months later, Bing Agile waited at the entrance of the extreme chill maze. When Su Fang and Qian Tong didn't come out, she couldn't help but worry about Su Fang. Ancestor Snow kept sending her thoughts into the extreme chill maze. Unfortunately, the extreme chill maze was too large and crisscrossed. Even with Ancestor Snow's powerful strength, it was difficult to find Su Fang in a short time. Lung Lingfeng had lost his patience and gloated. "That Su Fang is destined to die in the extreme chill maze. It's a pity that I can't see him being suppressed by the mayfly race. Before he could finish, Su Fang's cold and embarrassed voice rang out. I won't die in the extreme chill maze. You won't see me being suppressed by the mayfly race either. Then Su Fang flashed out of the entrance. He looked a little weak, but he didn't look like he had been swept away by the ice-cold maze. Lung Lingfeng's voice came to an abrupt halt. A strange look appeared in Bing Agil's eyes. In an instant, Su Fang became even more mysterious in her heart. Ancestor Snow was also surprised, but she didn't ask any questions. Su Fang flew toward the entrance of the Ice Soul Sanctuary. A moment later, the mayfly race expert Qian Tong also flew out of the extreme chill maze. He looked like he was heavily injured, but his life was not in danger. Once again, Lung Lingfeng, Bing Pianxian, and Snow Ancestor were surprised and shocked. Could it be that the ice-cold maze isn't as shocking as the legends say? If that's the case, I must enter the depths of the extreme chill maze in a few days. I'm sure I'll be able to find a lot of Ice Heart Divine Jade, and maybe even Ice Bone Jade Marrow. Lung Lingfeng was surprised, but he couldn't help thinking. Cold air rolled at the entrance of the Ice Soul Sanctuary. From time to time, ice and snowflakes would spew out. It was a terrifying sight. In the chaotic void not far from the entrance, 5 figures stood in the air. Among the 2 foreign race cultivators in the lead, the black-robed one was the mayfly race expert Yu Shui. In Su Fang's home? When she became a saint, Yu Shui was seriously injured, and her aura was still weak. She was only slightly stronger than an ordinary upper Dao saint. There was also a woman with a beautiful face and a demonic aura. She had blood-red hair and looked very strange. She was the mother body of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. Will the Ice Soul Holy Tribe really hand over Su Fang? The mother body of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine stared at the entrance and said in a gloomy voice. After so many years, the mother body of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine seemed to have recovered by more than half. Her aura was almost the same as when she first entered the heaven-forsaken desolate region. Even if she wasn't as strong as Daozu, she still had the terrifying strength to crush all Dao saints. Yu Shui smiled embarrassedly. Although the Ice Soul Holy Tribe also has immortal realm experts, their overall strength isn't strong. They won't offend the mayfly race for a human cultivator. They will definitely hand over Su Fang. Lord Shueman, you can rest assured. The mother body of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine snorted. That's for the best. I don't want to come here for nothing. Yu Shueman said, Lord, you have a blood feud with Su Fang, and I also want to skin Su Fang alive. Yu Shui, you promised me before. Don't go back on your words. Lord Shueman, don't worry. As long as we capture Su Fang, I only want the longevity lamp. Everything else will belong to Lord Shueman. No matter how bold I am, I won't dare to go back on my words in front of Lord Shueman. That's for the best. Others are afraid of your mayfly race, but I'm not. When the time comes, don't fall out with me. I'm not afraid of Daozu, let alone a junior from the mayfly race. That's for sure, the 2 peerless experts of the other races were talking. 4 figures flew out of the entrance one after another along with ice, snow, and cold currents. Su Fang is out. Chapter 31-39. As soon as Su Fang appeared, he became the target of the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother body and Yu Shui. The 2 alien race experts looked at Su Fang with greedy eyes, but there was more anger and hatred in their eyes. Both the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother body and Yu Shui had deep hatred for Su Fang. Su Fang also saw the 2 foreign race experts and the 3 Dao saints from the mayfly race. He smiled awkwardly, not surprised at all. He had no intention of running away. At this time, Saint Sovereign Xie spoke in Su Fang's Dao Palace. Su Fang, you have a lot of enemies. You've provoked a top Dao saint from the mayfly race and a sky-piercing Blood King Vine that's comparable to the Daozu. Even I have to admire your ability to make enemies. Su Fang replied, all foreign races are my enemies. Apart from slaves like Tu Xiu, there are also experts like you who are willing to work for me. I promised to work for you for 10 million years, but I didn't say I would sacrifice my life for you. I can't help you deal with the sky-piercing Blood King Vine and the Mayfly race expert. You should run for your life. I will find a way to help you. Run for my life? Look carefully. The sky-piercing Blood King Vine and Yu Shui have yet to recover from their injuries. This is a rare opportunity. Not only will I not run for my life, but I will also suppress all of them. Suppress a sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother body and a top Dao Saint from the Mayfly race? Brat, you are really arrogant. Saint Sovereign Xie Zhu was also shocked by Su Fang's bold idea. After sensing for a while, Saint Sovereign Xie Zhu spoke again. Yes, the two experts do seem to have yet to recover from their injuries. However, if you want me to help you suppress them, it's impossible. I didn't expect you to be so cowardly after being shackled by the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. Don't even think about provoking me. I have been shackled for too long. Although I have recovered some of my life essence from you, it's impossible for me to fight two experts at the same time. At most, I can only help you deal with the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother body. That's because my Xian Evil Flame is able to suppress the sky-piercing Blood King Vine to a certain extent. You only need to help me deal with the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother body. Leave the rest to me. Can you deal with Yu Shui and the other 4 Dao Saints of the Mayfly race? Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu was doubtful. I forgot to tell you that I was the one who injured the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother and Yu Shui. You? Can you hurt the sky-piercing Blood King Vine's mother and Yu Shui? Su Fang's words made Holy Sovereign Xie Zhu snort disdainfully. Human cultivator, you didn't expect that we would meet again here, did you? The heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan's mother body stared at Su Fang and said proudly, "You are unlucky every time you see me. This time is no exception." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine's main body snorted and said, "You were too despicable in the past. Otherwise, with my strength, how could I have suffered a loss in your hands? This time, if I don't turn you into a dried corpse, how can I be satisfied?" Yu Fei snorted coldly. Su Fang, the only reason you dare to act so arrogantly is because of the grand missed heavenly treasure, the longevity lamp. This time, with Lord Shuiman here, the longevity lamp won't be able to save you. Saint Sovereign Xie Zhu exclaimed in disbelief in Su Fang's Dao Palace. The longevity lamp? Boy, you have a primordial heavenly treasure and the longevity lamp that can give you eternal life? Ancestor Snow also transmitted his divine will to Su Fang from inside Bing Qianqian's body. Su Fang, you have the longevity lamp? Why didn't you say so earlier? As long as you give the longevity lamp to the strongest of my race, even if the immortal realm beings of the Mayfly race come to Ice Soul Sacred Region in person, they will definitely protect you. Su Fang replied, "The longevity lamp is indeed in my hands. I have already fused with it. Otherwise, how could I have killed more than 30 Dao Saints and injured more than a dozen Daozu beings? As for giving the longevity lamp, I have already formed a Dharma body with it. It is impossible for me to give it away." Ancestor Snow sighed. What a pity. Don't think that you can rest easy just because you have the longevity lamp. The Shui's Blood King Vine happens to have the ability to restrain the longevity lamp. The Shui's Blood King Vine has such an ability. It was the first time Su Fang heard that there was an ability that could restrain the longevity lamp. No treasure, supernatural power, or ability is invincible. There will always be something that can restrain them. This is the truth of the Great Tao. As far as I know, a mature Shui's Blood King Vine can breed something called the soul-stabilizing flower. It has the ability to resist any soul attack. The longevity lamp will not be able to threaten Shui's Blood King Vine. Soul-stabilizing flower? Su Fang was not surprised. The life in the chaos was indeed wonderful. Su Fang had the Shui's Blood King vine, but he did not know that the mother had such an ability. No wonder Yu Shui and the heaven-piercing Blood King vine's mother are so fearless. No wonder Yu Shui invited the heaven-piercing Blood King vine's mother over. So this is the reason. However, I don't only have the longevity lamp. Su Fang sneered inwardly. He did not take the Shui's Blood King vine's ability seriously because he had never thought of activating the longevity lamp. Saint Master Xie Zhu exclaimed, I did not expect a human cultivator like you to have such good fortune. You can obtain a legendary primordial heavenly treasure and even merge with it to cultivate a Dharma body. Your luck and ability are truly amazing. You are an anomaly among the humans, just like the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. Saint Master Xie Zhu, it's good that you understand this. As long as you are willing to help me sincerely, it is not impossible for me to help you become a Daozu expert. If you had said this before, I would have slapped you to death. Now I have to believe you. Yu Shui looked at Su Fang, her eyes full of pride. Su Fang, take out the longevity lamp. Otherwise, you will not have any chance to use it. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. You are not even as strong as the Daozu. Do you think I need to activate the longevity lamp to deal with you? Even now you are still so arrogant. Human brat, die. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Blood vines as thick as an arm swept toward Su Fang. Countless blood vines intertwined and seeped into the void, forming a world of blood vines that sealed Su Fang and his surroundings. Even Bing Pianxian, Lung Lingfeng, and Qian Tong of the Mayfly race were trapped. Although the Shui's Blood King vine had not recovered to its peak state, it had the strength to suppress a peak divine saint expert. This was also because the foreign races had invaded the human world. The Shui's Blood King vine had taken the opportunity to wantonly devour the life and energy of human cultivators to recover quickly. You 3 juniors of the Ice Soul Saint tribe and the Mayfly race, hurry up and leave. Otherwise, if I make a mistake, I will devour all of you as well. The voice of the Shui's Blood King vine came from all directions. Then, the 3 blood vines wrapped around Qian Tong, Bing Pianxian, and Lung Lingfeng and pulled them out of the world of blood vines. Su Fang, hold on for a while. I will wait for an opportunity to help you escape, Ancestor Snow secretly said to Su Fang. Thank you for your kindness, Ancestor Snow. However, there is no need for you to do anything for now. Just stand aside and watch how I suppress the Shui's Blood King vine and Yu Shui. Su Fang replied domineeringly. Suppress the blood vines and Yu Shui? Ancestor Snow found it unbelievable. He did not believe Su Fang's words. Lung Lingfeng looked at the world of blood vines with satisfaction in his eyes. Human cultivator, this time I will see how you die with my own eyes. Unfortunately, Qian Tong promised to let me vent my anger first. Now that Shui Man is here, I have no hope. Qian Tong also flew to Yu Shui and the other 3 Mayfly race Dao Saint. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Once Qian Tong, Bing Pianxian, and Lung Lingfeng left the world of blood vines came from all directions. They waved like blood snakes and wrapped around Su Fang. Cold, elegant saber sovereign. Su Fang controlled the cold, elegant saber sovereign and slashed at the blood vines. The cold, elegant saber sovereign was extremely sharp. It could also release a shocking cold air. It first froze the blood vines and then cut them off one by one. However, there were too many blood vines and they were also extremely tough. The cold, elegant saber sovereign could not cut off all the blood vines. Su Fang could not hold on for more than 5 minutes before countless blood vines wrapped around his body. They quickly penetrated his defenses and turned into blood threads. They were ready to devour Su Fang's blood qi and essence. The Shui's Blood King vine surged out of Su Fang's body and fought with the blood threads in his body and Dao Palace. They devoured each other. I didn't expect a human cultivator like you to nurture my descendant to such an amazing level. You're not far from me now. You've merged with my descendant. I'll devour everything you have. The Shue's Blood King Vine Mother let out a voice full of resentment. The blood vines surged wildly. Half of the blood vines had penetrated Su Fang's body. Isn't that human cultivator very powerful? How can he be so weak? Lung Lingfeng laughed disdainfully and happily. Bing Pianxian was also surprised. Even if Su Fang was not a match for the Shue's Blood King Vine Mother, he should not be so weak that he was easily devoured by the Shue's Blood King Vine Mother. Ancestor Snow, who was hiding in Bing Pianxian's body, also gave up the idea of helping Su Fang. Once the Shue's Blood King Vine had penetrated into his body, there was no way he could survive. Even if Ancestor Snow personally took action, it would be difficult to save Su Fang. Yu Shui was also surprised. After Su Fang successfully passed the tribulation, Yu Shui had personally experienced Su Fang's strength. Even if he did not use the longevity lamp, his strength was still extremely shocking. Yu Shui had never expected that Su Fang would be so easily restrained by the Shue's Blood King Vine Mother. Su Fang was completely wrapped up by the blood vines. The blood threads had also penetrated every corner of his body. The Shue's Blood King Vine Mother did not intend to devour Su Fang. Instead, it directly penetrated Su Fang's body and took over his body. Suddenly,